Chapter 843. Yinyang Qi Jian Chen calmed down very quickly. He looked around and realized that he was currently in an endless wasteland. It was desolate, without any grass or signs of life. There was no sun or stars in the sky. It was a hazy gray and did not even have clouds. The heavenly enchantress stood up. She looked about sternly and said with a soft voice, "How do we return?" After some silence and thought, Jianchen replied, "I don't know either. However, since that person put so much effort into constructing a spatial tunnel that crosses through the stars on the Dragon's Island leading up to here, I believe there's definitely some secret hidden here. It definitely won't be that simple. Let's go and see if we can obtain something unexpectedly over there." Jianchen led the way. The heavenly enchantress hesitated slightly before closely following Jianchen. She had no clue where they had come to, and now the only thing she could do was follow Jianchen in hopes that he could find the way out. At this very moment, an ancient, desolate presence appeared in the far-off distance. It was vast and boundless, quickly expanding into the distance with a soul-shaking might. Feeling the presence, the expressions of two changed greatly. Before the presence, they felt exactly how puny they were. As if they currently facing an endless starry sky. They felt like even an ant was more significant than them. The pair could not even think of resisting before the presence. Short, why afterward, two colors, black and white, appeared beyond the horizon. They plunged into the sky like two pillars, radiating with an ancient and desolate presence. Both of them unconsciously looked at the two pillars of light. Afterward, their minds rumbled. Currently, they simultaneously envisioned a foreign scene. They witnessed the chaos before everything, as well as the birth of worlds. "Wake up!" At this very moment, a powerful shout reverberated through Jianchen's head. It woke him up, and the previous scene of chaos completely disappeared. He returned to reality. Above his head, the two sword spirits had already appeared. Jianchen was not the only one awakened. Even the heavenly enchantress beside him returned to her senses from the powerful shouts of the sword spirits. Waking up, the heavenly enchantress immediately noticed Ziying and Qing Sua, who floated above Jianchen. Shock and curiosity immediately appeared in her beautiful eyes. "Ziying, Qing Sua, what did I just see?" Jianchen asked. In his head, the scene with the primordial chaos constantly flashed through his head. "Master, don't think about that for now. Right now your cultivation level is too low. The stuff on that level is not something you should meddle with. If I didn't wake you up, your consciousness would have been forever lost in the scene of primordial chaos, until your consciousness dispersed, and your soul was wiped out," Ziying said sternly. "Ziying's right. Master, you can't meddle with that right now, otherwise it'll be certain death." Qing Sua agreed. "The primordial chaos. Did I just witness the scene where this world was created?" The heavenly enchantress also heard the sword spirits' voices and murmured gently. Qing Sua looked toward the heavenly enchantress. "It's not the creation of this world, but the entire space and universe. Anyway, stuff on that level is far from anything you should ever meddle with. Knowing more is not beneficial in this case." "Then why do you understand it so well? Who are you?" the heavenly enchantress asked curiously. Currently, she was unable to tell whether the sword spirits were human or ghosts. Ziying and Qing Sua did not continue to pay any attention to her. They all looked at the two pillars of light that surged toward the sky in the distance. Their expressions were mixed, grim while also pleasantly surprised. "That's a strand of Yinyang Qi transformed from chaos. So it was that. No wonder I felt like the energy in the Linistron pit was rather familiar. The energies there were affected by the presence from here. That was why it carried a sliver of familiarity," Ziying mumbled to himself. "What? Yinyang Qi?" Jianchen was astounded. He understood the origins of the sword spirits quite well. They themselves were created from a strand of Yinyang Qi, and had gained intelligence after countless years. "Is this Yinyang Qi the same as the energy within the two of you?" Jianchen followed up closely with a question. When the heavenly enchantress heard his words, she was immediately stunned. She stared at Ziying in shock. She had never thought that the two ethereal forms would be transformed from a mysterious energy. The sword spirits nodded together and Ziying said, "Correct, it's just like that. Master, go over there quickly. If we can absorb that yin-yang qi, we should be able to recover much of our strength. Zi Ying's voice carried a sliver of excitement. With that, Jianshan also rejoiced. Afterward, he rushed off into the distance without any hesitation. The heavenly enchantress stood where she was for a short while, before also rushing off and following Jianshan closely. As soon as Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress approached the yin-yang qi, an extremely cold energy and an extremely hot energy suddenly appeared, permeating into the surroundings. Jianshan's body suddenly jolted, and his steps came to a screeching halt. His face immediately became bright red, while a terrifying heat began to radiate from his body. Jianshan immediately sat down with his legs crossed. His face was boiling red with heat. He could only feel that a scorching energy had entered his body, like a red-hot branding iron. It radiated with a terrifying heat that was destroying his body. Even with the strength of his chaotic body, he was unable to withstand it. Even chaotic force was unable to wipe it out. Instead, it slowly trickled into his sea of consciousness. Meanwhile, the heavenly enchantress's expression also changed abruptly. She immediately became sheet white. An extremely cold aura began to radiate from her, and there were vague signs of the ground freezing. She had also encountered a situation like Jianshan, though the energy within her was frigid rather than scorching. Wherever the energy passed by, her body would be frozen. The energy currently flowed toward her sea of consciousness, as if even her soul was about to be frozen. Ziying Qing Sua, what is this energy? Even my chaotic force can't repel it. Jianshan frantically communicated with the sword spirits. Currently, he had no way at all to stop the advance of the scorching energy. Once it entered his sea of consciousness, he did not know whether it would burn his soul or not. Crap, this is the supreme yin and supreme yang qi from the yin-yang qi. It's extremely pure and not something master can resist right now, Ziying cried out. The yin-yang qi is formed from the chaotic force present before the universe. Does that mean my chaotic force is unable to restrain it? Jianshan's voice carried a sliver of anxiety. Master, your chaotic force is too weak. It can't even be considered as true chaotic force. It's unable to match up with this supreme yang qi. Qing So explained. Then what should I do? Is there any way to stop this supreme yang qi? Jianshan's voice became more and more worried. The supreme yang qi radiated with a terrifying heat in his body. His chaotic body would not be able to withstand it for too long. His organs felt like they were on fire, producing waves of violent pain. Outside Jianshan's body, red ripples of air that were vaguely visible spread out. It was heat from his body, and it caused the surrounding temperature to skyrocket. But beside him, the heavenly enchantress sat on the ground with her eyes closed. Pain appeared on her face. She radiated with an extremely frigid coldness that formed a thick layer of ice in a meter radius around her. Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress were each absorbing the supreme yang and supreme yin qi. They radiated with either heat or coldness. The characteristics of the two qi were polar opposites, contrasting sharply with one another. Ziying floated above Jianshan. He glanced at the heavenly enchantress, who radiated with coldness. After some hesitation he said, Master, there is a method, but it might be difficult for you. Just what method is it? Say it, I can't last much longer. Jianshan said hurriedly. The supreme yang qi in his body was like a burning flame that slowly inched its way toward his mind. Master, you and that girl beside you each absorbed the supreme yang and supreme yin qi. If you want to neutralize this energy, both of you must cooperate. You must cancel it through using a method to balance the yin and the yang, and then absorb it. This will bring great benefits along with it, Ziying said. He carried a rather weird expression. Tell me exactly what I need to do, Jianshan ordered frantically. The exact method is to, Ziying immediately explained it to Jianshan. After learning the way to balance the yin and the yang, Jianshan's expression became weird too. He said with a forced smile, Ziying, are you joking? How can I do that? Is there no other way? Master, there's no other way except this. This is the only way you can neutralize the supreme yin and supreme yang qi. The two qi are extremely pure, so once you cancel it out and absorb it, not only will it bring great benefits by increasing your strength, your body and soul will also adapt to the energy. If you ever encounter the supreme yin or supreme yang qi in the future, you won't become like this, Ziying said sternly. However, he hid one thing from Jianchen. Even if the supreme yang qi reached his sea of consciousness, it would pose no harm to him, because Ziying himself was formed from the supreme yang qi of the yin-yang qi. Chapter 844. The Balancing of Yin and Yang Master. There's no other way except this. This is the only way you can neutralize the supreme yin and supreme yang qi. The two qi are extremely pure. So once you cancel it out and absorb it, not only will it bring great benefits by increasing your strength, your body and soul will also adapt to the energy. If you ever encounter the supreme yin or supreme yang qi in the future, you won't become like this, Ziying said sternly. However, he hid one thing from Jianchen. Even if the supreme yang qi reached his sea of consciousness, it would pose no harm to him, because Ziying himself was formed from the supreme yang qi of the yin-yang qi. However, the sword spirits could only protect Jianchen, and not the heavenly enchantress. Jianchen carried an odd expression, while his face was full of hesitation. He struggled to make a decision. The method to balance yin and yang mentioned by Ziying was the matter of a man and woman embracing each other. He felt extremely awkward about it. Suddenly, the muscles on Jianchen's face began to spasm. His face was full of pain. The supreme yang qi in his body was currently burning away at his vitality and flesh. It was as if scorching flames currently flowed at his chest, drawing closer and closer to his head. Meanwhile, Jianchen's entire body had become like a red-hot branding iron, now bright red. The terrifying heat had turned his clothes to ashes. Arg! A howl resounded from a side. It was filled with pain. The heavenly enchantress radiated with surging coldness. The supreme yin qi had already turned half of her body into an ice sculpture. What is this energy? It's so terrifying. Am I going to die here today? The heavenly enchantress's face was filled with sorrow. She had already tried countless methods, but none of them were able to halt the advance of the frigidness within her. Feeling how his body quickly approached a critical point, Jianchen knew that the heavenly enchantress was also in a similar life-or-death situation. He ended up speaking up. Heavenly enchantress, I do have a method to neutralize the danger. Jianchen shameless hinted at Ziying's method to the heavenly enchantress. When she heard Jianchen's words, she became torn between rage and shame. She glared viciously at Jianchen with her beautiful eyes. They contained an unconcealable anger. What? How dare you? I'd rather die than dash. When she reached this point, her expression changed once again. She produced a moan filled with pain. The situation inside her body was worsening. She had already arrived at death's door. All signs of life were frozen within her, while the supreme yin qi currently expanded toward her head. Even her soul would be frozen, and after that it would slowly fuse with the supreme yin qi. In the end, her soul would be wiped out completely. Jianchen became redder and redder. The supreme yang qi radiated with a terrifying heat that roasted his body like a stove. If he did not have his chaotic force, and was just an ordinary saint ruler, this strand of supreme yang qi would have dissolved his body already. They would not be able to last so long. Even saint kings would not be an exception. The yin-yang qi originated from chaos. This chaos was true chaos, completely incomparable to Jianchen's half-assed chaotic force. Just a tiny portion of yin-yang qi transformed into supreme yin and supreme yang qi was enough to kill saint rulers, or even saint kings. Master, there's not much time left. The supreme yang qi in you will reach your sea of consciousness in a dozen or so seconds, and the girl beside you will also die. Ziying's voice carried some sense of urgency. If they missed this opportunity, the supreme yang qi in Jianchen's body would be wasted. Jianchen's face remained hesitant. He turned around toward the half-frozen heavenly enchantress, who was in great pain. His gaze gradually became determined. Gritting his teeth, he directly lunged toward the heavenly enchantress and tightly embraced her frozen body. The heavenly enchantress immediately snapped open her eyes. Her alluring phoenix eyes lost the calmness from before and were now filled with panic. She tried as hard as she could to raise her arms, that were frozen to the point of absolute numbness, in an attempt to push Jianchen away, but she just could not do so with the current condition of her body. What are you doing? You bastard! Go away! The heavenly enchantress's voice was filled with panic. She was a strong woman who protected her purity. Even if she died, she did not want to be sullied by others. Heavenly enchantress, please forgive me. This is the only method for us to survive. Otherwise we're doomed, Jianshan said rather bitterly. You bastard, go away. The heavenly enchantress pushed at Jianshan with difficulty. She wanted to get Jianshan away from her, but she was incapable of that. Jianshan tightly hugged the heavenly enchantress. The coldness radiating from her just happened to be the counter for the supreme yang qi. When the extreme coldness and heat from their bodies came together, there were vague signs of neutralization. It weakened the frigidness and scorching heat from both of them by a little. The heavenly enchantress's deeply frozen body also showed signs of melting. Not long afterward, all the ice on her body melted, and she was returned to her previous state. Although the situation for the two of them had taken a somewhat good turn, that was only the situation outside their bodies. Inside, the danger was still present. The supreme yin qi and supreme yang qi remained. Jianshan embraced the heavenly enchantress's smaller, soft bod, but he did not have the time to enjoy the wondrous feeling. He said softly, "Heavenly enchantress, apologies." With that, Jianshan closed his eyes and directly began to rip away her clothes. "Arg! What are you doing? You bastard, let me go!" The heavenly enchantress cried out as she struggled violently. She began to resist with all she had. At this very moment, the energies within them had already reached their necks. Time was extremely tight. Jianshan did not act like the heavenly enchantress, trying to use his life to protect his purity. He could no longer care. Too much, he just wanted to make it through the disaster. Ignoring the heavenly enchantress's violent struggles, Jianshan immediately took action, because there was not much time left. If he continued to hesitate, both their lives would be threatened. Very quickly, all of the heavenly enchantress's clothes were stripped off. It revealed the pure white skin under her dress. It was as white as sheepskin, as fine as a baby's bottom, and as smooth as jade. "You bastard! Release me! If you really do it, I will never forgive you. Let me go immediately." The heavenly enchantress resisted desperately. If it was under normal situations, she would not need to worry about Jianshan at all. However, she currently had no power over her body with the supreme yin qi acting up inside. She was unable to use her abilities to fend off Jianshan at all. "Heavenly enchantress, if we don't purge the problem from our bodies, we both will die. I, Jianshan, cannot afford to die right now. Apologies, you bastard." A series of ragged breaths appeared in the desolate wasteland, making the dead world slightly livelier. The sound continued for an hour, before slowly quieting down. Afterward, there were no more sounds. The wasteland recovered its deathly silence. Jianshan and the heavenly enchantress lay on the wasteland naked. They both had their eyes closed, currently unconscious. No one knew whether they had fallen asleep or fallen unconscious. The heavenly enchantress's veil was already removed, revealing her appearance. She was extremely beautiful, to the point where it could no longer be described as alluring or kingdom-toppling. Her beauty was stifling. Her beauty seemed to surpass the limit of the world, reaching a whole different realm. It was not something that was supposed to exist in this world. The soil near the heavenly enchantress's waist was dyed with drops of blood. It painted some new colors on the gray, gloomy land. On Jianshan's back, there were many scratches that crisscrossed with each other. They did not break through his skin, but there were clearly visible white marks. The two of them lay on the cold ground just like this. Whether they were in deep sleep or unconsciousness, they did not wake up even after a long time. Time passed silently. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. In those 3 days, the two remained unconscious, stuck in the same posture without moving at all. From afar, the two pillars of black and white light remained, stretching into the sky. They gave off slivers of supreme yin and supreme yang qi that slowly fused into the two. However, the qi was no longer able to cause any harm to the unconscious duo. As soon as the qi entered their bodies, it would be balanced out, turning into a gentle energy before being absorbed by them. A portion fused with their bodies, while the remaining part merged with their heads. It caused some slight changes to their souls, strengthening it at the same time. At this very moment, the two pillars of light in the distance slowly disappeared. With their disappearance, the Supreme Yin Qi and Supreme Yang Qi in the surroundings also vanished instantly. A soft breeze blew across. Jian Chun, who had been unconscious for 3 whole days, finally began to wake up gradually. He slowly opened his eyes. Jian Chun clearly had no idea about his current situation. As soon as he woke up, he subconsciously wriggled slightly, but with the movement, he immediately felt that something was wrong. This was because it was not the cold, hard soil that he subconsciously assumed to be beneath him, but something soft and warm. Ah! At the same time, a numbing moan was heard by Jian Chun. The voice carried some pain. Jian Chun's slight wriggling had also awakened the heavenly enchantress. Their eyes focused from the blurriness after sleep at the same time. The first thing they saw was each other, and they were only a few inches apart. They were both surprised, clearly still not completely awake. Chapter 845. A great increase in strength shortly afterward. All the images from a few days ago flashed through their heads like a film. It woke them up immediately, and the heavenly enchantress's expression immediately became torn between rage and shame. At this moment, she pushed Jian Chun far, far away with an energy of unknown origins. She immediately climbed up. When she saw that she was completely naked under the sky, without anything covering her jade-like body, and the droplets of blood on the ground, tears immediately began to well up in her beautiful eyes. They were filled with rage and grievance. Forcefully resisting her anger, the heavenly enchantress pulled out a new purple dress from her space ring and quickly draped it over herself. She stared viciously at Jian Chun with flames of rage, while more and more tears welled up. Her eyes were filled with misery. Jian Chun hurriedly pulled out a set of white, tight robes and wore them. Seeing the heavenly enchantress's indescribable beauty, he became lost. He had never seen such a beautiful woman before. It could be said that she was the most beautiful out of all the women he had seen. Her beauty already superseded the fairies in heaven like the goddess beyond the 9 heavens. She was that flawless and perfect. However, he also understood that this was not the time to appreciate the heavenly enchantress's beauty. He explained hurriedly, "Heavenly enchantress, I hope you can understand. Under those circumstances, I had no choice either. Otherwise, both of us would have died. Only like this can we survive." "Shut up." The heavenly enchantress cut off Jian Chun. She stared at Jian Chun with infuriation and roared, "You bastard, you beast, taking advantage of people. You actually used such despicable means to take my body. I will never forgive you. After I kill you, I'll kill myself." The heavenly enchantress was a woman who seemed gentle on the outside, but she was actually tough on the inside. She seemed to be a rather gentle and quiet person, but her personality was extremely staunch. She was unable to endure being defiled like this. The zither of the demonic cry appeared in her hands. She placed it midair and quickly began to play it with both hands. Every time she struck a note gently, it would shoot out a powerful sound wave at Jian Chun. Jian Chun would not just stand there and get hit for nothing. The heavenly enchantress's strength was already greater than his. Even though his chaotic body had a powerful defense, he did not dare to just receive the sound wave attack. He immediately turned into a blur, quickly moving away, dodging the sound wave from the heavenly enchantress. "Heavenly enchantress, calm down. Why must you be so stubborn? You know that I had no other choice under those circumstances too." Jian Chun explained as he dodged, attempting to convince the heavenly enchantress. The heavenly enchantress's eyes had returned to the coldness from before, and she quickly played the zither with her 2 hands. Each note produced was filled with killing intent and shot toward Jian Chun. The sound waves grew denser and denser, blotting out the surroundings. Gradually, it formed a cage that locked down Jian Chun and cut off any route of escape. The light in Jian Chun's eyes flickered. Chaotic force surged about in his body, pushing the chaotic body to the limit. Afterward, he directly hurled out a punch, opening up an exit and escaping with the illusionary flash. However, faced with the densely packed sound wave attacks, he was unable to come out unscathed and was hit by several sound waves. However, The sound waves strangely transformed into an energy when they collided with Jian Chen, silently entering his body. Afterward, it was assimilated by the chaotic force and turned into his own power. Feeling the difference in his body, Jian Chen was immediately astounded. The light in his eyes flickered a few more times, and he soon stopped running. He let the dense sound waves in the surroundings strike his body as he stood where he was. The sound waves struck Jian Chen like moths flying to a flame. However, with no exceptions whatsoever, the sound waves were unable to harm him. All of it was assimilated by the chaotic force in him, as soon as they came into contact with his body, converting into Jian Chen's own power. However, this energy was just too little to Jian Chen, and made almost no difference at all. Just what's happening? Jian Chen was filled with skepticism. He had no idea what had happened to his body that allowed him to absorb the sound wave attacks from the heavenly enchantress. How is this possible? Seeing that her attacks were unable to harm Jian Chen, she also revealed a shocked expression. Afterward, the melody she played changed and she cried out, "Soul devouring of the heavenly demon." The soul devouring of the heavenly demon was one of the relatively more powerful melodies that the heavenly enchantress knew. It used the zither to confuse people, causing their souls to vanish and disperse into the surroundings unknowingly. It was a terrifying melody that killed without any signs, and it was impossible to guard against. The gentle zither notes resounded through the surroundings. It seemed to be filled with a certain charm, calming down everything in the world at that very moment. Even the gentle breeze in the area stopped. Jian Chen stood 30 meters away, quietly listening to the melody. He revealed an expression of anxiety. He could naturally feel that the zither notes concealed a killing intent, but when he heard it, he did not feel anything. It was as if they could not affect him at all and posed no harm. Very soon, the melody progressed to its halfway point. Seeing how Jian Chen did not experience anything, not even a change in expression, the heavenly enchantress became shocked and her face became filled with disbelief. The melody stopped. The heavenly enchantress stopped playing the zither and stared blankly at Jian Chen. She struggled to accept this. No, this is impossible. How is it like this? How? Why is my zither unable to affect you? The heavenly enchantress became rather despaired. Not only did Jian Chen take her chastity, he was now immune to her zither. This prevented her from ever taking revenge. She could not accept this. The heavenly enchantress did not believe it. She began playing again, but no matter what she tried, it was unable to harm Jian Chen at all. He really did seem to be completely immune to her zither. Impossible. How is it like this? How? Why? Why is it like this? The heavenly enchantress shook her head. More and more tears welled up in her eyes, before finally rolling down her beautiful face as two streaks of crystal-like tears. She was in misery. Just why is it like this? Jian Chen also felt extremely strange over the fact that he was now immune to the heavenly enchantress's sound attacks. He had no idea just what had happened. Master, 3 days ago, when the two of you embraced each other and balanced your yin and yang, you also absorbed the energy that came out of the balancing afterward. As a result, a few changes occurred to your bodies. Now if the two of you fight, it would be equivalent to Supreme Yang Qi encountering Supreme Yin Qi. It would be nullified instantly, prevent the two of you from harming each other. Ziying explained for Jian Chen. This was the first time that Jian Chen had ever heard of something like this. He found it to be extremely novel, but it just happened to answer his doubts. Afterward, he looked toward the sorrowful heavenly enchantress, and his expression became a great mix of emotions. What happened between him and the heavenly enchantress was definitely not an accident. However, at that time, he had no choice. He needed to survive. Even if he could travel back in time, he would have still done the same thing. Sigh. Jian Chen sighed gently in his head. He sat down where he stood. He knew that the heavenly enchantress needed to calm down right now, so he did not disturb her. He had no real way to deal with this. He could only let matters take its course and develop as it would. He was not stupid enough to mention matters, such as taking responsibility. The heavenly enchantress was a powerful saint ruler, not an untouched girl from an ordinary family. It could not be compared to secular matters. Quieting down, Jianchen immediately checked the conditions of his own body. He discovered that his soul had strengthened by several folds. It was now extremely powerful. If his previous soul was a finger-sized flame, his soul right now would be a small but extraordinarily bright light bulb, radiating with dazzling light. This was a qualitative increase, far greater than any quantitative increase. With the strengthening of his soul, Jianchen's presence had also greatly increased. Unfortunately, his presence was suppressed here, preventing him from expanding it. Otherwise, he would really be keen to see just how much his presence had increased. Afterward, Jianchen began to inspect his dantian. He immediately felt extremely serendipitous after a single glance, as he saw that the chaotic Niden had already increased to the size of a fist from the chicken egg size of before. He had almost reached the peak of the first layer of the chaotic body. The growth of the chaotic Niden excited Jianchen for some reason. At the same time, he was secretly shocked by the strength of the Supreme Yin Qi and Supreme Yang Qi. He never thought that he would gain so many benefits in a few short days through the balancing and absorption of energies. Ignoring the changes in the soul, just growth of the chaotic Niden was equivalent to 3 years of work. It also saved him large quantities of monster cores, which moved Jianchen very much. I've already reached the peak of the first layer with my chaotic body. I only need to find some time to go into seclusion, and I'll be able to reach the second layer. Jianchen itched to try it. He was tempted to go into seclusion immediately. Jianchen opened his eyes and looked toward the Heavenly Enchantress. Heavenly Enchantress, we both may have paid something this time, but the benefits we have gained is extraordinary at the same time. After balancing the yin and yang and absorbing the energies, we both should have reaped great benefits. If you carefully examine the condition of your body, your strength should have increased greatly. Currently, the Heavenly Enchantress had already begun to calm down gradually. Hearing what Jianchen had said, her expression remained the same. She closed her eyes skeptically, silently sensing any changes in her body. A second later, the Heavenly Enchantress's eyes abruptly snapped open. They were filled with an unconcealable shock, but very soon, it turned into pain. She gently bit her bottom lip and she seemed down. Her strength had indeed increased, just as Jianchen had said. However, compared to the price she had paid, she would have rather not gained this increase. Chapter 846. The strongest human. Jianchen paid attention to the changes in the Heavenly Enchantress's expressions rather anxiously. Seeing that she did not overreact, he immediately relaxed slightly, and after hesitating, for a moment he said, "Heavenly Enchantress, let's go onward and have a look. Let's see if we can find our way back." The Heavenly Enchantress sat dejectedly on the ground, as if she could not hear Jianchen at all. She did not react to him at all. Jianchen sighed gently and lowered his head to think. He stood up from the ground and gazed at the location where the yin-yang qi came from. He said, "Don't you want to find out exactly what forced us? If you want to know, come with me." With that, Jianchen paid no more attention to her, turning around and walking off into the distance. The Heavenly Enchantress slowly raised her head. She stared at Jianchen's back, which constantly grew smaller with mixed emotions. Gently biting her lip, she hesitated slightly before she slowly followed Jianchen in the end. The two of them maintained a distance of 30 meters between them as they traveled, and they eventually arrived at a deep ditch of 1,000 meters. This was where the 2 huge pillars of light were 3 days ago. Standing at the edge of the ditch, Jianchen did not hurry down. He focused his eyes on the very center of it. He could vaguely feel some extremely obscure ripples of energy, and the ripples were so powerful that it even made him shocked. The Heavenly Enchantress also walked up from behind. Despite the wound in her heart, she had already calmed down and her face was once again hidden by a veil. She stood 3 meters away from Jianchen at the edge of the ditch. At the same time, she looked down into the very depths with her eyes that were still filled with misery. She could obviously feel the extremely obscure but powerful ripples of energy too. "Master, it's here. This is where the yin-yang qi radiated from." Ziying's voice sounded in Jianchen's mind. "We can't expand our presence at all here. Master, you should go down and have a look." Qing Sua's impatient voice also appeared in Jianchen's head. Jianchen became stern. Strands of chaotic force surged from his chaotic naiden, filling every corner of his body. He pushed the defenses of his body to the limit. After that, he turned around to the heavenly enchantress. I want to go down and see. You can follow behind me. She remained silent. Jianchen no longer hesitated, and directly leaped into the ditch. He vigilantly slid down the slope as he slowly headed toward the bottom. The heavenly enchantress followed closely after he leaped down. She tailed Jianchen, slowly sliding down toward the bottom too. She was unfamiliar with everything here. She was unable to find a way out. Meanwhile, Jianchen seemed to know quite a few secrets. Only by following Jianchen would she get the chance to leave this place. The two of them arrived at the bottom very quickly. The bottom was flat and had a diameter of 100 meters. Two balls of powerful light floated quietly at the center. The balls were 2 meters off the ground, and one was white and one was black. This is a Yinyang Saint Rock. I never thought that the Yinyang Qi here would be so powerful, that it has formed a Yinyang Saint Rock. The two sword spirits materialized above Jianchen, both staring at the two balls of light in shock. Jianchen and the heavenly enchantress also looked at the Yinyang Saint Rock and observed it curiously. Jianchen stared at the balls of light with interest for a while, before he slowly walked over. However, as soon as Jianchen reached 50 meters from the balls of light, a white figure appeared silently to block Jianchen's path. The sudden white figure frightened Jianchen greatly. He did not hesitate at all, casting the illusionary flash. He retreated 20 meters with lightning speed, and only left behind a blur. He stared vigilantly at the figure that had just appeared. Only now did Jianchen see the figure's appearance clearly. He was a middle-aged man who seemed to be in his 40s, but the man's determined face still contained the residual handsomeness of his youth. He did not seem like the average man. His indifferent eyes were filled with condescension, as if he was the ruler of the world, as if he was God. However, his body seemed rather ethereal. He did not seem to be corporeal. With the appearance of the man, an indescribable pressure immediately began to permeate the surroundings. At this very moment, the entire world seemed to freeze. Even time stopped. Jianchen and the heavenly enchantress immediately felt immobilized. It did not just stop there, they lost sense of their bodies. It felt like their souls and bodies had just been separated and divided into two. Jianchen and the heavenly enchantress both became astounded. Just the pressure from the man was enough to make the two of them feel like their souls had separated from their bodies. They felt great shock and horror at the man's strength. Saint Emperor. This thought occurred to both of them at the same time, because ninth heavenly layer Saint Kings were definitely unable to cause such stunning feelings. Only legendary Saint Emperors could. The man floated 3 meters in the air. He stared fixedly at the sword spirits above Jianchen's head, while some surprise appeared in his eyes. The sword spirits also looked toward the man simultaneously. They became extremely serious. They stared off with the man for a while before Ziying spoke out. Who are you? You were the one who set down the 8 trigrams disorientating formation. A sliver of surprise flashed across the man's eyes once again. He said, I never thought that you two spirits would actually know about the 8 trigrams disorientating formation too. Impressive, very impressive. Looks like the reason why these two puny people can come here is all because of you two. As he spoke, the pressure in the surroundings also disappeared suddenly. Jianchen and the heavenly enchantress regained control over their bodies. They stared at the middle-aged in shock, stunned by his strength. Staring at the man's face, Jianchen felt a feeling that he knew him, as if he had met him somewhere. Just who are you? Why do you know the 8 trigrams disorientating formation? This time, the one asking questions was Qing Sua. She stared fixedly at the man with a stern expression. As soon as Qing Sua finished speaking, Jianchen seemed to think of something. His expression immediately changed greatly, and he cried out as he stared at the man in shock. You're the number 1 experts of mankind, Mo Tianyin. Jianchen was not unfamiliar with Mo Tianyin's appearance. He had seen his sculptures more than just once in Mercenary City, and this man's appearance just happened to be exactly the same as Mo Tianyin's sculptures. With that, the heavenly enchantress also became shocked. She stared fixedly at the man's appearance. With this glance, A rumble immediately shook through her head. The man before her really did have the exact same appearance as the huge sculpture in Mercenary City. Emo Tianyan. Are you really Senior Emo Tianyan? The heavenly enchantress cried out uncontrollably. It was rumored long ago that Emo Tianyan was already dead, yet right now, the legendary person had appeared before her like a miracle. She struggled to believe it. The man looked at Jian Chun and the heavenly enchantress. A sliver of melancholy appeared on his face, and he sighed emotionally. You must be from the Tianyuan continent. So much time has passed, yet I'm still able to see people from the continent. I originally thought that no one from the continent would ever be able to come here. Senior Emo Tianyan, is it really you? Jian Chen's voice carried some unexplainable serendipity. He was previously skeptical, but he had now confirmed the man's identity. He was the greatest expert of the humans, Emo Tianyan. Emo Tianyan was the protector god of the Tianyuan continent. When the continent was invaded by the 100 races in the ancient times, it was Emo Tianyan who emerged at the most crucial moment, after all the humans were defeated by the experts of the 100 races. He repelled the 100 races by himself, and saved all the people on the Tianyuan continent. This was the reason why the continent had its current peace. Although Jianshen had never seen Emo Tianyan, he was still born on the continent. As a result, he admired and respected this savior of the continent, Emo Tianyan, very much. Right now, he had seen a legend. It would be difficult for him to not be excited. How is the situation between the Tianyuan continent and the Beast God continent right now? Emo Tianyan asked the two of them. Afterward, Jianshen narrated the circumstances of the continent. He hid nothing about the winged tiger god reappearing, or that the Beast God continent had invaded. He believed that since Emo Tianyan had set down the rule, where people of Mercenary City could not be hostile to the winged tiger god, he definitely would not do anything harmful to the winged tiger god. When the heavenly enchantress heard about the winged tiger god, a sliver of shock flashed across her eyes. She glanced coldly at Jianshen. With her intelligent mind, she had immediately guessed that the white tiger, which she rode on the dragon's island, was the winged tiger god. Hearing the winged tiger god, Emo Tianyan's expression became rather mixed. He said, "Let me see it." Jianshen knew that Emo Tianyan was referring to the winged tiger. He did not hesitate at all, immediately releasing the cat-sized Xiao Bai from the saint artifact. However, Xiao Bai was sound asleep right now, absorbing the medicinal effects of the heavenly resources. It did not wake up. Senior, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, once deduced that if the winged tiger god fell in the hands of the Beast God continent, it would be extremely possible that the ruler would forcefully take its body before entering the Beast God Hall to take the legacy. Jianshen said. Emo Tianyan sighed gently. It will definitely experience a rough journey as it grows. Right now, I'm just a sliver of presence left here to protect this place, to prevent anything from happening here. So I can't leave. Also, I can't last too much longer either. As the two of you have awakened me this time, my sliver of presence will disappear soon afterward. It can only rely on itself in the future. I am unable to help it directly. With that, Jianshen sighed secretly. He became dejected. Emo Tianyan looked towards the sword spirits. If my eyes don't deceive me, you two must be the sect treasures of the sword sect of Amethyst Heavens, the chief sect of the 9 great sects, the sword spirits of the Azulite swords. Emo Tianyan's words caused the sword spirits to jolt. They stared at Emo Tianyan in shock and cried out at the same time. Just who are you? Chapter 847. World of Forsaken Saints. Emo Tianyan's expression was filled with melancholy. That battle years ago was devastating. All 10 divine artifacts were destroyed. Even the Azulite swords that were sect treasures of the sword sect of Violet Heavens, chief sect of the 9 great sects, were destroyed due to the failure in the sword fusion. The swords were shattered, and the sword spirits disappeared. I just never thought that I'd meet the Azulite sword spirits here today. Quite unexpected. Sword spirits, you don't need to ask me who I am. I may know about the matters from that age, but I was not born in that age. So even if I say who I am, you probably won't know. Are you of that world? Ziying asked with a deep voice. The color of reminiscence dyed Emotinion's eyes. Before he produced a long sigh at the sky, his expression became extremely mixed, containing both nostalgia and hatred, with a sliver of indescribable sorrow sandwiched between. Whatever, it's all in the past, not worth mentioning, Emotionion said gently. His expression was filled with loneliness, but he recovered very quickly, becoming serious once again. He said to the sword spirits, "The legends say that the azulate swords were originally born from a sliver of energy from Yin-Yang Qi, before being obtained by the second sect master of the sword sect of Violet Heavens. Afterward, he collected many high-quality materials in the world with his exceptional ability, and forged them into swords. Is that correct?" "Correct, all of it is true," Ziying said. Emotionion continued. "Since the two of you were born from Yin-Yang Qi, you must be familiar with the object behind me." Ziying and Qing Sua looked toward the Yin-Yang Saint Rock behind Emotionion at the same time. Ziying said, "This is the Yin-Yang Saint Rock condensed from Yin-Yang Qi. How did you obtain it?" The color of recollection flooded Emotinion's eyes. This Yin-Yang Saint Rock flew in from outer space and landed on the island. Fortunately, my memories possessed records regarding this item. At that time, I did not dare to meddle with it carelessly after I identified what it was. I was worried that the Yin-Yang Qi hidden within would burst out and lead to an apocalyptic disaster. As a result, I set down the 8 trigrams disorientating formation in the pit, connecting it to outer space with the formation, and creating a bridge that led to the stars. Through the bridge, I moved the Yin-Yang Saint Rock into outer space with the utmost caution, far away from the Dragon's Island. This space was the region where I stored the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. After so many years, the rock would occasionally leak out some Yin-Yang Qi, modifying the laws of the world and changing the things in its range. The original region of outer space has already become its own independent space, which is the place you currently see. Emotinion's words were an extremely powerful psychological blow to Jianchen and the heavenly enchantress. It seemed fictitious to them. That was how unimaginable it was. The greatest human expert, Emotionion, actually possessed the power to create a bridge into the stars through formations in outer space. His abilities were just too great, so great that it was unbelievable. Both of them subconsciously looked around the vast space. They struggled to imagine that this space was actually formed by the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. Emotionion became even more ethereal. He said, "There's a strand of malevolence within the rock. Right now the rock is still maturing. It's as weak as a newly born infant, so it can easily be affected by the evil intent. When I took the rock into the stars all those years ago, I wanted to sacrifice this strand of presence to completely destroy it before it could completely mature. However, the aftermath from the explosion of Yin-Yang Qi would be too severe. So after some thought, I did not proceed with it. Instead, I left a strand of presence to guard this place, hoping that the Yin-Yang Saint Rock could eliminate the evil intent. If the rock was defeated by the evil intent, then I could use this presence to destroy the balance of yin and yang within the rock without holding back at all, making it blow up. Years ago, no matter what I imagined, I would never have expected to meet the azulate spirits that are also born from Yin-Yang Qi. Since you're here now, you'll have an even better way to deal with the Yin-Yang Saint Rock. I can relax completely now. My presence can only appear once. There's not much time remaining. I'll leave the rock to you two spirits to deal with." Emotionion became fainter and fainter. His presence had existed for too long. Before, it was always dormant. It could not last very long since the beginning anyway, and now that it had appeared, it used up much of its power, accelerating its dispersion. "Senior Emotionion, the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, misses you very much. Also with these pieces of beast fur. Does Senior know the origins of them? Finally, how should we leave here?" Jianchen pulled out a mysterious piece of beast fur from his space ring and asked 3 consecutive questions. Emotionion stared at the beast furs in Jianchen's hands for a while and said, "There's a total of 18 pieces. Once you collect all of them, you can rejoin them using the power of the soul. At that time, you will naturally understand the secrets hidden within it. However, only souls at the level of Saint Emperor are able to rejoin them. As for Xiaoling, a few unexpected accidents occurred when I used an ability to give her self-consciousness and intelligence. It prevented her spirit from forming completely. Afterward, she ended up completely safe and unharmed with some effort, but it also left an irreparable consequence on her. Her mind will always remain as that of a 5 or 6-year-old child. She will not have the chance to grow, no matter how much she goes through. She will never mature. Xiaoling is an eternal child who will never grow up. I hope you can treat her well in the future. Back then, I bestowed a cultivation method on her when I left. If she works hard on her cultivation, she'll recover her freedom after she completes her duty. Since the sword spirits follow you willingly, your future accomplishments will definitely be extraordinary. I can already feel the presence of chaotic force within you. Although it's extremely weak and impure, if you cultivate hard, you will definitely obtain the true chaotic body in the future. And since it's like that, I can disclose some secrets regarding the Tianyuan continent to you. Neither of them said anything, and just quietly listened to Emotianyan's words. From what he said, the two of them were about to learn many absolute secrets. These secrets did not even appear in the ancient record of Mercenary City, or the 10 protector clans. Emotianyan continued. There's a spatial crack that no one knows hidden beneath the Tianyuan continent. That spatial crack connects with another space, and the people who live in that space are extremely powerful. They call themselves the Forsaken Saint race, while the world they live in is called the world of Forsaken Saints. When I first found the world of Forsaken Saints, I entered it to take a deeper look by myself. Afterward, my true identity was discovered by the experts of that world. We became embroiled in a great fight. I did not want to kill, so I heavily injured them without taking their lives. However, not long afterward, the experts from that world discovered the Tianyuan continent through the crack. They began to call together people, planning to invade the Tianyuan continent. The world of Forsaken Saints is extremely powerful. At that time, even if Tianyuan continent, Beast God continent, and the Sea race worked together, they would have still failed to match up to them. As a result, I ventured into the world of Forsaken Saints all by myself, fighting many experts. In that battle, I slaughtered all the peak experts of that world, weakening its forces greatly. After that, I sealed up the spatial crack before I left. I used the power of the earth to create Mercenary City, which suppressed and sealed it, before accidentally discovering an earthen spirit. I bestowed self-consciousness to it, and then got it to protect Mercenary City. Senior, is that spirit the spirit of the barrier Xiaoling? Jianshan asked. Correct. Many people believe that Xiaoling exists due to the protective barrier I cast down all those years ago. That's not actually the case. Xiaoling is not some spirit of the barrier, but a ball of energy of the world born from the essence of the earth. She's just able to control the barrier I cast down years ago as she wishes, Emotianyan said. Looks like the seal mentioned by Xiaoling last time is the seal on the entrance to the world of Forsaken Saints. Jianshan thought. Many of his queries were resolved with what Emotianyan had said. Back then, the seal I cast down on the world of Forsaken Saints is very strong, but there will be a time where all of its energy becomes expended. And with so many years gone by, I wonder if the world of Forsaken Saints has regained their strength? Perhaps the current peak experts are constantly bombarding my seal with attacks, which will only make it wear out faster. In the future, if the seal becomes undone, only you can fend off the invasion of the world of Forsaken Saints, said Emotianyan. The heavenly enchantress sucked in a deep breath, slowly calming herself down. She looked respectfully towards Emotianyan. Esteemed Senior Emotianyan, I wonder just what strength the world of Forsaken Saints possesses? Compared to our Tianyuan continent, just how much more powerful are they? After some silence, Emotianyan said, I should tell you about this too, and let you have a rough understanding of them, so you can prepare in the future. Emotianyan paused before continuing. When I first ventured into that world, just the number of people who surpassed Saint Emperor had reached over 20. There were also 3 people who were even beyond that. What Emotianyan had said was shocking. It immediately astounded both Jian Chun and Heavenly Enchantress, raising great waves of emotions in their hearts. They struggled to calm down even after a very long time. Just the number of people who had surpassed Saint Emperor was already over 20. When they heard that number, it was like a thunderclap that rumbled through their heads and stopped their thoughts. Other than this, there were another 3 people who had reached an even greater level. Didn't that mean they were beyond the level above Saint Emperors? Both Jian Shun and the Heavenly Enchantress struggled to accept this. They had originally thought that surpassing Saint Emperor would make someone the most powerful. Never did they think that there were even more powerful existences beyond that. Moreover, Mo Tianyun's own strength had far exceeded the understandings of the people from the Tianyuan continent. Back then, he entered the world of Forsaken Saints all by himself and wiped out all the peak experts all by himself. This included the 20-odd people who had surpassed Saint Emperor, and the 3 who were even beyond that. Jianshan could not help but gain a new understanding of the greatest expert of mankind. Mo Tianyun's strength had greatly surpassed the understandings of the Tianyuan continent. It had reached an unfathomable level. Chapter 848. Method for Dual Cultivation. Jianshan and the Heavenly Enchantress were stunned by Mo Tianyun's strength. It took them a solid moment before they returned to their senses. Their hearts beat heavily and uncontrollably. A while later, Jianshan sucked in a deep breath and slowly calmed himself. He asked bitterly, "Senior, the Forsaken Saint world was already so powerful back then. Those peak experts may have all been wiped out by Senior, but after so many years, they've probably recovered completely now. On the other hand, if you look at our Tianyuan continent, the laws of the world have been thrown into a mess by the Great War in the ancient times. It has made it extremely difficult for humans to break through on the Tianyuan continent, so their strength is far from that of the ancient times. How are we supposed to resist the invasion with just our current strength? You don't need to worry about this. I have taken the disorder of the laws of the world into account long ago. However, these laws did not fall into disorder because of the war in the ancient times. The battles back then were intense, but they were far from a level where the laws of the world would be affected. All of this is due to the existence of the Inyang Saint Rock. As long as you deal with that, the Tianyuan continent will shortly return to how it was before," Mo Tianyun said. "What? It's all due to the Inyang Saint Rock?" Hearing what Mo Tianyun had said, Jianshan's face became filled with shock. Almost all the experts on the current Tianyuan continent, including those who had reached Saint King, were extremely certain that the increased difficulty in breaking through was caused by the laws being shaken up by the war in ancient times. Only now did he understand that all the experts were wrong on this. The chief culprit was not the intense war in the ancient times, but the Inyang Saint Rock. Mo Tianyun's figure became even hazier. He had virtually become a wisp of smoke that was about to disappear. The 2 of you used the method of balancing yin and yang to absorb the supreme yin and supreme yang qi radiated from the yin yang qi. So your bodies and souls already have some resistance to supreme yin qi and supreme yang qi. I just happen to know a dual cultivation method, which I'll pass on to the 2 of you today. When you increase your strength in the future, you can come back to this place and use this method to absorb the yin yang qi, allowing the 2 of you to power up quickly. It'll be all up to you when the Forsaken Saint world invades in the future." With that, Mo Tianyun pointed toward them. A sliver of intent flew out and disappeared into the center of Jianshan and the Heavenly Enchantress's eyebrows with lightning speed. "Back then, I had set up a transportation formation 50 kilometers to the east. You can use it to leave. If you want to come back in the future, you just need to follow the way you came in. Remember, problems lurk within the Inyang Saint Rock. You too must deal with it." Mo Tianyun's figure became so transparent that he was almost invisible. He looked toward the Azulate Sword spirits, waiting for their reply. "Don't worry. The Inyang Saint Rock is of great benefits for us and for Master. We will definitely deal with it," Ziying vowed. With Ziying's guarantee, a worry seemed to finally disappear from Mo Tianyun's mind. His illusionary body finally disappeared completely. The presence he had left here before had dispersed. The 2 of them did not feel Mo Tianyun disappear. They currently stood there with their eyes closed, silently accepting the information appearing in their heads. A while later, the information regarding the dual cultivation method was finally all deposited into the depths of their heads. However, when they saw the contents of it, strange expressions appeared on their faces accompanied with some awkwardness. The two of them slowly opened their eyes. Jianchen looked toward the heavenly enchantress with a face full of mixed emotions. Just as he wanted to speak out, the heavenly enchantress's cold voice cut him off and sounded out first. You better forget that method from Senior Emotianyan quickly. In the future, you will not be mentioning this ever again. The heavenly enchantress's tone was cold and straightforward, like hitting a nail on the spot. She did not leave any room for replies. Jianchen rubbed his nose. He became extremely awkward, while he grumbled internally. Emotianyan did not even pay any careful attention to the relationship between the two of them. Now he had done it. His method for dual cultivation was passed on for nothing. Senior Emotianyan. Jianchen clasped his hands. Just as he wanted to ask something else, he discovered that Emotianyan had vanished. Jianchen stared blankly, before understanding soon after. He murmured, "Looks like Senior Emotianyan's presence has already vanished." Emotianyan is not a simple man, Ziying said as he stared in the direction where Emotianyan was before. He was rather stern, but when he saw the Yinyang Saint Rock afterward, he immediately became excited. "Master, let's hurry over quickly. This Yinyang Saint Rock is extremely beneficial for us. If you can absorb the Yinyang Qi within it, not only will Qing Suwa and I recover quicker, even your chaotic body will improve greatly." Jianchen dismissed his current feelings. Walking slowly up to the rock, he did not feel happy at all, even though he knew exactly how valuable it was. Instead, he felt extremely heavy-hearted. After learning about the existence of the Forsaken Saint World from Emotianyan, a mysterious but powerful force pressed against Jianchen's chest like a mountain. He had lost his breath. Just their previous number of experts who had surpassed Saint Emperor was over 20. The number of Saint Emperors were definitely even more than that, perhaps reaching the triple digits. The Tianyuan continent would face extremely great difficulties if they wanted to fend off such a powerful force. Even if the effects of the Yinyang Saint Rock were dealt with, allowing the Tianyuan continent to increase in strength substantially, the amount of time needed for them to grow to the level of the Forsaken Saint World would definitely not be short. Jianchen stared at the Yinyang Saint Rock in interest. He said with a deep voice, "We need to deal with this Yinyang Saint Rock as soon as possible. The sooner we deal with it, the sooner the Tianyuan continent can return to how it was before." Ziying, Qing Suwa, are there any good ways to remove the Yinyang Saint Rock's influence? Master, this question is extremely simple. We just need to absorb all the Yinyang Qi within it, and the Yinyang Saint Rock will disappear completely. However, the Qi is extremely powerful inside. We aren't able to absorb it with our current strength, and if we directly try, Master will immediately explode from overloading, Ziying said. Even you're unable? Jianchen asked. Qing Suwa shook her head. If we were at our peak, we would not pay any regard to this rock, and just devour it with one mouthful. But right now the two of us have been seriously weakened. If we try absorbing it, it won't be absorption. We'll just be fused into the Yinyang Qi. Also, there is indeed an evil presence hidden within the rock as mentioned by Emotianyan. We must eliminate it. Jianchen thought in silence for a while, before speaking out regretfully. Looks like the Yinyang Saint Rock is just an unopenable treasure box to us right now. We can only come back in the future since it's like that. Master, you may not be able to absorb the Yinyang Qi inside the rock, but there's a layer of relatively thin Supreme Yin Qi and Supreme Yang Qi outside. The two energies are no longer able to form any great threat to the two of you, so you can absorb it, Ziying said. With that, Jianchen's eyes lit up. If it's like that, I'll just absorb the Qi outside first and break through to the second layer of the chaotic body here. With that, Jianchen turned to the heavenly enchantress. You've also heard what Ziying said. We'll cultivate here for now. This opportunity to increase our strength before us can only be encountered through luck. We can't forego it so easily. The heavenly enchantress paid no attention to Jianchen. She sat down where she was, and began absorbing the qi present on the surface of the rock. Jianchen stared at the heavenly enchantress's stunning beauty and could not help but think back to the entrancing scene 3 days ago. His eyes immediately became mixed with emotions, and he only dismissed his feelings after a while. He sat down with his legs crossed and began to cultivate. The thin supreme yang qi on the surface of the Yinyang Saint rock slowly entered Jianchen's body. He was immediately filled with a scorching energy, as if roaring flames currently burned him. However, Jianchen's body did not become a mess like 3 days ago. He already had a certain resistance to the supreme yang qi, so even though he found the flames formed from the supreme yang qi within him extremely uncomfortable, they could not pose much harm to him. Jianchen gritted his teeth, and his body radiated with heat. He silently endured the unbearable torture and worked hard to absorb the strand of supreme yang qi within him. The power hidden within the supreme yang qi was powerful and pure. If he wanted to absorb it completely and turn it into his own energy, it was extremely difficult. The yang within it was extremely unruly. With Jianchen's current strength, he was unable to forcefully absorb it. All he could do was slowly refine the unruly energy bit by bit. That was the only way he could absorb it. The speed for refining the supreme yang qi was extremely slow. After 2 hours, Jianchen had only refined a tenth of the strand. On the other side, the heavenly enchantress faced a similar torture to Jianchen. Her body radiated with a frigidness, also absorbing the strand of supreme yin qi as best as she could. Seeing this, Ziying could not help but sigh softly. AI. If they used the dual cultivation method, they would only need a while to neutralize the wild energy. Why be so strenuous? Jianchen used an entire day before finally refining the first strand of supreme yang qi. It turned into a powerful but gently energy, which he absorbed. The energy within the strand completely exceeded any Class 7 monster core. Even with the energy of many cores combined, it still probably would not have been enough. With the supreme yang qi absorbed, the chaotic Niden in Jianchen's dantian solidified quite some more. It seemed to become slightly bigger again from its previous fist size, approaching the limit. Jianchen did not stop. After he refined the first strand, he immediately took in another strand of supreme yang qi and continued his refinement. The unknown space did not have day or night. Submerged in his cultivation, Jianchen could not feel the flow of time, nor did he know just how much time had passed. After absorbing a total of 100 strands of supreme yang qi, the amount of chaotic force that his chaotic Niden could store finally reached its limit. With a rumble, the chaotic Niden that was the size of an adult's fist cracked loudly. All the chaotic force hidden within leaked out, surging about turbulently in Jianchen's body like wild horses that had broken free. Chapter 849. Second layer of the chaotic body. The surging chaotic force rampaged inside Jianchen's body. His body also seemed to be greatly shaken too, beginning to tremble violently before slowly bulging. He was like a balloon currently filling up with air, constantly increasing in size. Jianchen remained focused and maintained his calm mind without panicking at all. The secret technique recorded in the Azulite Sword Law appeared in his head, and he began attempting to control the chaotic force and circulate it according to the special method in the Azulite Sword Law. However, things did not go as he wished. There was an extremely great quantity of chaotic force stored in the chaotic Niden. Now that it had cracked open, the powerful chaotic force immediately broke out and lost control as he struggled to put under control. In this situation, Jianchen felt cold at heart. The power of the soul in his sea of consciousness surged out at full power and soon formed a powerful pressure in his body that forcefully suppressed the out-of-control chaotic force. With the suppression from the soul, the chaotic force gradually settled down and slowly fell back into Jianchen's control. Completely grasping the control of the chaotic force within him again, Jianchen immediately followed the secret technique and guided it along a special route in his body. The speed increased more and more, before finally reaching an unimaginable velocity. As the chaotic force moved about at great speeds, Jianchen's chaotic body also faced great pressures, with some vague signs of falling apart. He seemed to have already reached the limit that he could endure, and his body was constantly cracking. Meanwhile, the chaotic force became purer and more powerful bit by bit, taking qualitative leaps. However, the amount of chaotic force reduced quickly. It was currently going through the process of compression. With the decrease of chaotic force, his bulging body also slowly returned to how it was before, completely recovering without much time. The strengthening of the chaotic force broke the balance inside his body. Under the collisions from the strengthened chaotic force, his chaotic body was currently falling apart from the inside out. Whether it was his organs or tendons, they were all heavily injured. The pain that he had not experienced for quite some time attacked his body once again, and mercilessly tortured Jian Chen's mind. Jian Chen's body became to tremble even more violently. His teeth chattered while beads of sweat appeared on his determined face. He currently endured great pains. The chaotic body may have been powerful, but the pain and sweat from cultivating it was not something any person could endure. When Jian Chen first began cultivating the chaotic body, his willpower was tortured horribly by the heart-wrenching pain. It was so agonizing that he even lost the ability to faint. As a result, it could be seen that the difficulty in cultivating the chaotic body was far beyond anybody cultivating method found on the Tianyuan continent. Currently, he was breaking through from the first layer to the second layer of the chaotic body. With the balance between the chaotic force and the chaotic body now broken, he needed to go through the step of refining his body once again to attain a new balance with the chaotic force. Only like this could he use the strengthened chaotic force as he wished afterward. The chaotic body had 18 layers. If Jian Chen wanted to reach its true form, he needed to refine his body 18 times. Only through 18 times of painful torture could he truly reach the apex. Jian Chen's clothes were already moist with large quantities of sweat. The rampaging chaotic force became more and more powerful. At the same time, a part of it melded into his body, strengthening it. It allowed his body to grow with the chaotic force, and prevented an overwhelming disparity between the two. After who knows how long, the racking pain in Jian Chen's body finally disappeared. The chaotic force within him had already turned from a tempestuous ocean into a thin river that slowly flowed around in his body before gathering in his dantian. It formed a soybean-sized chaotic nidin. This new chaotic nidin was compressed from the fist-sized chaotic nidin from before. Although it had shrunken greatly, the chaotic energy hidden within became even more powerful. It was a qualitative improvement. With this, Jian Chen's chaotic force had finally broken through the first layer and reached the second. His chaotic body had also strengthened by several folds. Even though there were no changes in his stature, the defensive ability of his body had increased by at least several times. Jian Chen slowly opened his eyes as he sat on the floor. He silently inspected the chaotic nidin within him, and could clearly feel the strength of the second layer. Unconcealable joy filled his face. 7th Heavenly Layer Saint Ruler. My current strength has reached the 7th heavenly layer of a Saint Ruler. Jian Chen was ecstatic. Reaching the second layer, his strength directly rose from the 3rd heavenly layer to the 7th. He had improved by 4 whole layers. Now even if I encounter that ancestor from the Fire God clan, I will have no need to fear. With my ruler armament, killing him should be a piece of cake. Jian Chen thought to himself. He remembered the scene where the old man from the Fire God clan had forced him to use large quantities of chaotic force to produce an earth-shaking strike back in the City of God. The first layer of the chaotic body was equivalent to the 3rd heavenly layer. Coupled with a ruler armament, I could kill 5th heavenly layer Saint Rulers. Now that my chaotic body has reached the 2nd layer and increased my strength to the 7th heavenly layer, I wonder if I can kill 9th heavenly layer experts when I use my ruler armament. According to my current rate of growth, when I reach the 3rd layer, I might just be able to break through Saint Ruler entirely and become a Supreme Saint King. Jian Chen had already began to look forward to it, because only by reaching Saint King would he have the ability to negotiate with the 10 protector clans. This was because each protector clans had at least several Saint Kings. They would not regard mere Saint Rulers, as they were experts who stood at the very apex of the Tianyuan continent. They naturally would not bother with listening to Saint Rulers. Jian Chen calmed down very quickly dismissing his emotions. He closed his eyes once again and began to absorb more supreme yang qi for cultivation. Although he had reached the second layer, his chaotic Niden was still too small. He needed to replenish some of it quickly. The supreme yang qi here was the best for that. He could not waste it. As for the monster cores in the artifact space, there would still be a day where they would be all consumed despite being so plentiful. In the next period of time, Jian Chen forgot about the concept of time and became submerged in selflessness. He cast everything aside and devoted all his attention to cultivating. He only wanted to increase his strength as fast as possible. However, after reaching the second layer of chaotic force, his speed of cultivation also slowed down as a result. This was because for every strand of chaotic force he wanted to gain, he needed even more energy. During the first layer, a strand of chaotic force could be refined from 1 ruler armament, but at the second layer, he would need a total of 10 ruler armaments. The vast amounts of energy he needed was tenfold compared to the first layer. After a lengthy period of time, the supreme yin qi and supreme yang qi on the surface of the yin-yang saint rock were finally all absorbed. Jian Chen and the heavenly enchantress both awoke from their cultivation. They both inspected their strength and unconcealable joy flooded their faces. Clearly it was quite the harvest. The chaotic Niden in Jian Chen's dantian had also increased to the size of a thumb. Emerging from their cultivation, both of them stared at the floating yin-yang saint rock with the feeling of not being completely satisfied. Just the thin layer of energy on the surface of the rock was so beneficial to them. They could anticipate just how great the energy hidden within the rock was. Jian Chen stared at the head-sized rock with a slavering gaze. He sighed secretly before looking toward the heavenly enchantress. Heavenly enchantress, we should leave. We still don't have the strength to meddle with the yin-yang saint rock. Once we get powerful enough, I'll call you to come here with me again. The heavenly enchantress glanced at Jian Chen. She forcefully restrained her voice and did not say anything. Turning around, she walked silently out of the ditch. Jian Chen and the heavenly enchantress left the ditch in which the yin-yang saint rock was in together. They quickly found the teleportation formation cast down by Emotianyan long ago. The teleportation formation was a small stone hut that could house 10 people. The surrounding walls, floor and roof were all covered in complicated formation engravings. Standing before the formation, Jian Chen looked back at the timeless, independent world. He knew that from now onward, he had another memory that would be engraved into his brain. The heavenly enchantress's stunning figure was fated to be deeply embedded in his mind. With the teleportation formation activated, Jian Chen disappeared with the heavenly enchantress, filled with mixed feelings. At the very bottom of the Linestrum pit in the fantasy star ocean, a white light appeared in the empty space without any forewarning. As it disappeared, it revealed the figures of Jian Chen and the heavenly enchantress. The two of them had returned to the Dragon's Island through the formation left behind by Emotianyan all those years ago. Roar! Perhaps their sudden appearance had alarmed the living corpses at the bottom of the pit, as powerful roars immediately echoed. Large numbers of living corpses all charged at the two from the surroundings. Both of their expressions changed. Although their strength had increased substantially, they were still not 9th heavenly layer Saint Kings like Heiyu. Moreover, there were quite a few Saint Kings among the corpses. If they were surrounded, they would be faced with a tough battle. Let's leave here quickly. The exit to the pit was right above them. Jian Chen called out to the heavenly enchantress, before immediately rising up, quickly flying toward the outside along the tunnel. The heavenly enchantress did not hesitate either, and left the bottom of the pit at almost the same time as Jian Chen. Chapter 850. Returning to Three Saint Island along the way, Jian Chen and the heavenly enchantress killed a dozen or so saint ruler corpses before finally leaving the pit. Standing on the edge of the Linestrum pit, Jian Chen stared down into it sternly. He relaxed slightly and said, "It's fortunate that those living corpses didn't catch up, or will only be able to escape in a horrible shape. Are the corpses at the bottom of the Linestrum pit unable to leave it?" Jian Chen pondered for a while, before gently shaking his head. He no longer thought about these questions. Instead, he looked around but he did not find Ruijin or Heiyu. I wonder how seniors Ruijin and Heiyu are right now. I hope they are fine. Jianchen murmured. He was also slightly worried for the two of them. After all, they had helped him before, Ruijin in particular. Without their help, Jianchen probably would not have been able to obtain so much priceless dragon's saliva. Jianchen stood where he was and hesitated slightly. Afterward, he turned to the Heavenly Enchantress and said, Heavenly Enchantress, our objective for coming to the Fantasy Star Ocean has been completed. It's about time we return. Currently, the Heavenly Enchantress had already calmed down completely. She did not pursue the matter of Jianchen's immoral actions, but he felt like she had become colder and colder. When he first gifted the dragon's saliva to her, he could clearly feel that the Heavenly Enchantress had gained a rather good impression of him. But now that impression was completely gone. Jianchen could only groan inwardly. The simple zither of the demonic cry had appeared in the Heavenly Enchantress's hands again. It was as if she felt uncomfortable all over if she was not carrying it. She gently rubbed the strings with the elegant fingers of her right hand, and with her back to Jianchen, she said coldly, Remember, forget that matter completely. Do not mention it again in the future, or I won't be going easy on you. With that, the Heavenly Enchantress did not wait for a reply. Her feet left the ground, and she flew toward the outskirts of the Fantasy Star Ocean, at a low altitude. Jianchen sighed secretly. Afterward, a forced smile appeared on his face. The memory had already been engraved into his mind. How was he supposed to forget it? Moving slightly, Jianchen cast the illusionary flash, following closely behind the Heavenly Enchantress. Now that he had found the dragon's saliva, he needed to return to the Fantasy Star Ocean to help Changyang Zhu Yingkong. The two of them left the Fantasy Star Ocean. Now that their strengths had increased greatly, the dense mist around the ocean no longer posed any threat to them. They were able to pass through it without any difficulty. As soon as they emerged from the mist, the Heavenly Enchantress immediately became a blur that flew off into the distance with unbelievable speed. She disappeared in the blink of an eye, leaving Jianchen behind, who still floated outside the mist. Looking at the direction in which she disappeared off to, Jianchen shook his head helplessly. He knew that this matter had affected the Heavenly Enchantress greatly. He then fused with the surrounding space, and used spatial force to hurry along. Jianchen directly flew back to Three Saint Island according to the route in his memory. Two figures flew over from the distance. They were the two disciples of the Heavenly Enchantress, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Master Jianchen, you finally returned. 4 years have passed since your departure with the island mistress. It's caused us quite some worry over whether the island mistress has met a bad end or not. Xiao Qian spoke from afar. Her voice was clear and pleasant just like a lark's. Right, Master Jianchen. Did you encounter any dangers on your journey to the Fantasy Star Ocean? Why did the island mistress behave so irregularly when she returned, as if she was a completely different person? Xiao Yu asked. Her face was filled with worry and concern. How did your island mistress behave irregularly? Jianchen asked curiously. As soon as the mistress returned, she entered the back mountain to go into seclusion. She paid no attention to us, and did not reply to us no matter how we called at her. Jianchen, you must tell me honestly, in these years that you have spent with the island mistress, just what has happened to her? Xiao Qian's face was filled with the feeling of being wronged. When she reached the end of her words, she immediately became stern, and her gaze toward Jianchen had even become filled with some threat. Jianchen chuckled. From this trip, your island mistress has gained quite some things. Her strength has increased by quite a lot. She must want to consolidate her cultivation, with how she went straight into seclusion when she returned. You don't need to worry, and you don't need to disturb your island mistress. Is that so? Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Master's strength is becoming greater and greater now. The two of them immediately became excited with what Jianchen had said. Right, Master Jianchen. Have you found the 100,000-year dragon's saliva? Xiao Yu asked next. Fortunately, it all went well. I've obtained the dragon's saliva. We can now get the patriarch to break through to Saint Ruler successfully, Jianchen said. That's wonderful. That pitiful person can finally reach Saint Ruler. As long as he breaks through successfully, the pain he suffers will be greatly reduced, Xiao Qian said. She was extremely happy. Yeah, because of that seal in his mind from all those years ago, he has indeed suffered great pains. Even we did not have the heart to watch on. It's fine now, he can finally be freed. Alright, let's not talk anymore. Master Jian Shen, you should quickly make him consume the dragon's saliva, and let him break free from his painful torture a little sooner. Xiao Yu was also extremely happy. Her smile was rather sincere. Even though Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu were saint rulers, they had always lived on the harmonious Three-Saint Island. Very rarely did they ever leave the island, which allowed a sliver of genuity and kindness to remain in their hearts. They had not been corrupted by the disputes and deceptions present everywhere on the Tianyuan continent. With Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu accompanying him, they arrived at Changyang Zuyunkong's hole. They found him sleeping on a stone bed with a disheveled appearance. Xiao Yu said, "In order to decrease his pain, we used the music from zither to make him sleep. Master Jian Shen, please wait a little." She then turned to Xiao Qian. "Junior, let's wake him up. Play the soul-comforting melody." "Yes, senior." Xiao Qian immediately sat down with her legs crossed. She gently caressed the strings of her zither with her elegant hands, and played a gentle tune. Xiao Yu's fingers also touched the strings of her zither, using a unique method to wake Changyang Zuyunkong from his slumber. Changyang Zuyunkong slowly sat up from the stone bed. He said with his ancient voice, "Sai, how long have I slept this time?" Jian Shen immediately walked up, and pulled out some dragon's saliva from his space ring. "Grandfather, it all went well. I've obtained dragon's saliva that is aged beyond 100,000 years. Changyang Zuyunkong saw the half-a-meter-long grass in Jian Shen's hand. He immediately became excited, extending his trembling hand to accept the dragon's saliva. He mumbled excitedly, "Dragon's saliva, dragon's saliva. This really is dragon's saliva. Fantastic, the seal in my mind can finally be suppressed. I finally have the chance of becoming a saint ruler." Changyang Zuyunkong carefully cupped the dragon's saliva in his hand. With the glistening of tears in his eyes, he said, "Grandson, I never thought you'd actually succeed in obtaining dragon's saliva from the fantasy star ocean. It must have been a very dangerous journey." Jian Shen smiled. "Grandfather, haven't I returned safe and sound? Let's not talk about this for now. Quickly use the dragon's saliva to suppress the seal in your mind, and reach Saint Ruler. Grandfather will also obtain another 2,000 years of longevity. I will find a way to remove the seal from your mind in the future." Jian Shen and Changyang Zuyunkong conversed slightly as grandfather and grandson, before Jian Shen left the cave. He waited for Changyang Zuyunkong to break through to Saint Ruler. Meanwhile, Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu remained in the cave, playing to the soul-comforting melody to assist Changyang Zuyunkong's breakthrough. Outside the cave, Jian Shen sat on a large rock. He observed the movements within the cave nervously. He was not of any help for his grandfather's breakthrough. All he could do was pray silently and guard this place, to prevent any people from creating disturbances. At this very moment, Jian Shen's eyes suddenly narrowed. He suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. There was a figure flying over with extreme speeds, his target being Three-Saint Island. Saint Ruler. Jian Shen became rather stern in thought. Grandfather is in a crucial stage. Xiao Yu and Xiao Qian need to play the soul-comforting melody, so they can't leave at all. This is definitely not the time for any disturbances to occur. Jian Shen disappeared with a flash, reappearing over 1,000 meters away. His legs did not stop, stepping midair, and traveling toward the figure who flew over. Jian Shen blocked the person 5 kilometers from the island. It was a white-robed handsome young man, who seemed to be around his own age. When he saw the person's appearance clearly, Jian Shen's heart jumped. The image of the handsome man who publicly tried to woo the heavenly enchantress back, when he entered the holy land of the mercenary city, Prince Bai Jian, immediately appeared in his head. The young man before Jian Shen was exactly him. Being blocked by Jian Shen, Bai Jian fell into an extremely bad mood. However, he was also able to tell that Jian Shen was a saint ruler, someone with the same cultivation as him. "Sir, who are you?" Bai Jian glared at Jian Shen as he growled. His tone was not friendly. Sir, who I am is not important. What is important is that you can't enter Three Saint Island right now. Please wait outside for a few days. Jianchen clasped his hands at Bai Jian and said with an indifferent tone. With that, Bai Jian's face darkened. He said, "How presumptuous! You dare block the way of me. Prince Bai Jian? You must be tired of living. I am old friends with the mistress of the island. If I want to enter the island, a nobody like you has no right in saying yes or no. Get out of the way immediately, or don't blame me for being impolite with you." Jianchen's face also darkened slightly. He said coldly, "Sir, you can't enter the island right now. Please wait a few days." A rather angry light flickered in Bai Jian's eyes. He sneered coldly, "I've never heard that there's someone like you on the Three Saint Island. Perhaps something has happened on the island for you to block me like this?" With that, Bai Jian seemed to realize something. He decided to no longer speak with Jianchen, flashing past him and flying toward Three Saint Island. Jianchen used the illusionary flash and left behind a blur as he flew ahead of Bai Jian with an extremely fast speed. He blocked Bai Jian once again and said, "Sir, please stay here." "Move," Bai Jian yelled. He was worried if anything had happened to Three Saint Island. He did not want to have a meaningless conversation with Jianchen anymore, directly hurling a fist at him. Chapter 851. Battling Bai Jian no longer wanted to talk with Jianchen. He directly threw a wind-like punch at Jianchen that whistled through the air with an ear-piercing sound. The powerful driving force seemed to compress the space it passed. Jianchen had made his preparations to battle against Bai Jian long ago. Facing Bai Jian's sudden attack, he did not panic at all, remaining calm and unperturbed. His eyes were cold. He had no intention of dodging, immediately filling up every corner of his body with chaotic force. He pushed the second layer of his chaotic body to the limit. He planned to use Bai Jian's punch to measure the strength of his chaotic force. Bang! With a muffled sound, Bai Jian's steel-hard fist struck Jianchen's chest mercilessly. A powerful force exploded, forming visible ripples that radiated outward. Jianchen's body shook violently. He lost control and was sent flying backward for hundreds of meters by the power of the fist. However, Jianchen's expression remained the same. He was clearly uninjured. Bai Jian was also knocked backward by 100 meters by the reactive force. When his fist hit Jianchen's body, he felt like he had hit an extremely tough steel board that had even made his arm go numb. What a powerful body! Bai Jian was secretly shocked, and he looked toward Jianchen. He saw that Jianchen had not even flinched and was completely unharmed. Bai Jian was astounded and disbelief flooded his face. How is that possible? He used his body to withstand a blow from me, and he's not injured at all. Even the powerful bodies of beasts of antiquities cannot do this. How did he do it? Bai Jian finally became rather stern, no longer looking down on Jianchen. Several hundred meters away, Jianchen stared into Bai Jian's eyes as he floated above the sea. He rubbed his chest that had become slightly painful from the attack and asked, "What heavenly layer are you on?" Although Jianchen's powerful presence could detect Bai Jian's strength, he was unable to determine Bai Jian's exact cultivation. "The seventh heavenly layer. I wonder what method you cultivate to have such a powerful body. Is there perhaps some protective treasure?" Bai Jian asked with a deep voice. From Jianchen's presence, he could tell that he was a human from a single glance, and not a magical beast. He struggled to believe that a human could have a body as tough as a beast of antiquity. The seventh heavenly layer is only so much. Jianchen chuckled to himself. He was extremely satisfied with the defense of the second layer. It was actually able to receive a blow from a seventh heavenly layer saint ruler and come out unscathed. Even though it was just a casual strike, it was enough to indicate just how powerful and terrifying the chaotic body was. With what Jianchen had said, Bai Jian's dignity seemed to be greatly offended. He immediately fell into a rage and roared out, "Your powerful body doesn't mean that you have the same strength. Since you dare to talk big, I'll let you see my true strength." Surging ripples of energy began to pour turbulently from Bai Jian. It quickly coalesced into a light blue great sword of a palm's width. He had materialized his saint weapon. Shortly afterward, Bai Jian moved, shooting toward Jianchen like a lightning bolt, and stabbing the sword in his hand at Jian Chun with the ripples of energy. Wherever the sword passed by, space would be cut open and form a pitch-black crack. This time, Bai Jian had used all his strength. He did not hold back at all. Jian Chun's expression became stern. Strands of chaotic force began to spew out from his chaotic Niden and gathered in his right fist. He threw his fist toward Bai Jian's sword, using his body to fend off an attack from a 7th heavenly layer saint ruler. You dare to use your fist to match my saint weapon? Such arrogance. Bai Jian sneered. He knew that Jian Chun's body was extremely powerful, but he did not believe that Jian Chun was able to block his attack with the saint weapon with just his body. This was because the fist from before was only a test. Now that he used his full strength, the power produced was definitely something beyond the fist from before. Bang! Jian Chun's punch collided intensely with Bai Jian's saint weapon. With a boom, vast ripples of energy burst forth, causing the surrounding space to distort and constantly shake. 100-meter waves formed on the now turbulent ocean beneath them. Bai Jian's saint weapon broke through Jian Chun's chaotic body. The sharp end of the sword pierced through his flesh, but it only entered by an inch before coming to a halt, unable to advance any further. Fresh blood flowed from Jian Chun's fist. A drop of it fell into the ocean below, and immediately dyed the blue seawater red. It expanded into a radius of 5 kilometers, and caused the seawater to be filled with a sliver of pure and powerful energy. Although he had injured Jian Chun, Bai Jian could not become happy at all. He stared at Jian Chun with his eyes bulging, while waves of shock brewed in his heart. How is that possible? My full-powered strike with my saint weapon only caused him some skin-deep wounds. Just what body does he have? It's unbelievably tough. While Bai Jian was stunned, Jian Chun had already pulled back his fist. Ignoring the blood on it, he threw it at Bai Jian again with the sharp whistling of wind. Bai Jian's expression changed slightly, and he immediately tried to block the fist with his saint weapon held horizontally. When Jian Chun's fist collided with it, the power of the chaotic body was displayed perfectly. The fist directly knocked Bai Jian backward, and he only stabilized after he flew for a dozen or so kilometers. He immediately paled slightly, while his right hand, which held the saint weapon, constantly trembled. Jian Chun did not follow up, slowly pulling fist back. The wound on his fist was healing at a visible rate, and even the blood that had flowed out re-entered the injury, returning to his body. In just a few seconds, the injury had healed completely. It did not even leave behind a scar or mark. If one looked at his fist now, it would be difficult to imagine that he had been injured just before. Sir, please wait here for a few days. You cannot enter the island right now, Jian Chun said indifferently as he looked at Bai Jian. Bai Jian stared grimly at Jian Chun and growled. You are indeed very powerful. You have that powerful body, so it's extremely difficult for me to injure you. But if you want to stop me from entering the island, that's impossible. I've only left the holy lands of Mercenary City recently. After a period of comprehension and seclusion, I've grasped the basics of a saint-tier battle skill. Since you want to stop me, I can only show you how powerful the battle skill is. As soon as he heard saint-tier battle skill, Jian Chun became grim. If it was cast with Bai Jian's strength as a 7th heavenly layer saint ruler, it would definitely possess the power to destroy the surroundings. He had no confidence that he could block it successfully. On the other hand, saint-tier battle skills were also the most powerful battle skills on the continent. Jian Chun was also eager to see the power of one very much. For a moment, Jian Chun felt both fear and anticipation toward Bai Jian's saint-tier battle skill. A vast aura radiated from Bai Jian. It enveloped the surroundings with its might, causing the wind and clouds in the sky to change. Vaguely, there was even the muffled rumbling of thunder. Bai Jian had entered the charging up phase for his battle skill. Bai Jian! At this very moment, an illusionary voice echoed through the surroundings. It was filled with a boundless charm, as if it could lure the souls of people away from them. The sudden voice caused Bai Jian to beam. He looked toward the 3 Saint Island over 10 kilometers away and called out, Heavenly Enchantress, are you fine? I, Bai Jian, have come to visit you. At the same time, Bai Jian stopped his casting of the saint-tier battle skill. Bai Jian, stay your hand. The Heavenly Enchantress's voice boomed. No one could tell where the voice came from. Bai Jian looked around in doubt. He became astonished and said, "Heavenly Enchantress, I haven't seen you in so many years and your strength has increased once again. I can't feel your presence at all now. Oh right, Heavenly Enchantress, who is this person? Why does he stop me from entering the island? Has something happened to the island?" Only after a period of silence did the Heavenly Enchantress's voice boom out once again. "Bai Jian, leave. Three Saint Island does not welcome you." With that, Bai Jian began to panic. He said, "Heavenly Enchantress, I've journeyed thousands of kilometers to Three Saint Island to see you. Are you just going to reject me at the doorsteps?" Soon afterward, Bai Jian seemed to think of Jianshen. He immediately pointed at Jianshen and said angrily, "Heavenly Enchantress, tell me exactly who he is. Why can he enter the island while I can't? Am I not as good as him to you?" Random thoughts began to crop up uncontrollably in Bai Jian's head. Envy and irrationality immediately sprang up in his heart, as soon as he thought of the possibility that Jianshen spent every day on the island interacting with the Heavenly Enchantress. He imagined them being on a close basis, and doing some things he had no clues of. "Heavenly Enchantress, tell me exactly who this person is. Why have I never heard about his existence from you before? Why has he appeared on Three Saint Island? And why is he obstructing my entry to the island? Why are you unwilling to see me?" Bai Jian's eyes became bloodshot. As he spoke, he became madder and madder, more and more irrational. In the end, he even believed he had touched on the truth. "Bai Jian, you don't need to stick your nose in my matters. What does his identity have anything to do with you?" The Heavenly Enchantress's cold voice reverberated once again. Bai Jian began to laugh aloud out of anger. "Not for me to care about? Nothing to do with me? All right, Heavenly Enchantress. I won't be leaving exactly because you want me to leave. I swear I will not leave if I don't enter Three Saint Island and see you." Jianshen's face darkened. If Bai Jian entered the island so emotionally, he would definitely create a very great commotion, disturbing his grandfather's breakthrough. He could not allow something like that to happen. "Pass through me first if you want to enter the island." Jianshen blocked Bai Jian's path. Bai Jian said nothing. He fused with the surrounding space, and used spatial force to transform into a blurry afterimage that shot toward Three Saint Island with lightning speed. He instantly passed by Jianshen. Jianshen's expression changed greatly. He had never thought that Bai Jian would actually use a method like this to try and enter Three Saint Island. Bai Jian's comprehension of the mysteries of the world completely superseded Jianshen's. His explosive speed from spatial force completely exceeded Jianshen's travel speed, preventing Jianshen from blocking him in time. Although Jianshen had reached the second layer of the chaotic body, which was equivalent to the seventh heavenly layer of Saint Ruler, his comprehension of the mysteries of the world remained at the first heavenly layer. Chapter 852. Saint Tier Battle Skill. Watching Bai Jian fly toward Three Saint Island, Jianshen began to panic. He cried out, "Bai Jian, if you disturb my grandfather's breakthrough, I, Jianshen, swear that I will pursue you for your life to the end of the world." However, Bai Jian's mind was currently full of matters about the Heavenly Enchantress. Why would he pay any attention to Jianshen's threats? He continued onward with no decrease in speed. Instead, he sped up even more. Thrum. At this very moment, the gentle sound from a zither resounded through space, sending a visible sound wave at Bai Jian with lightning speed. "Heavenly Enchantress, you dare to attack me!" Bai Jian became even angrier. He roared out as he poured his surging saint force into his saint weapon. He then directly swung it at the sound wave. With a great rumble, the violent ripples of energy knocked Bai Jian back very far away. This time, he flew for close to 10 kilometers before he came to a halt. "Heavenly Enchantress, I didn't think your strength would become so great. Why do you stop me? Why? Why do you do this? Why can he enter the island while I cannot? Tell me why." Bai Jian roared loudly. The envy he experienced became stronger and stronger, almost to the point where he would faint. In Bai Jian's heart, he had already imagined the Heavenly Enchantress as his partner. Even though she had never shown any agreement, he believed that it was only a matter of time before he became a couple with her thanks to his mad pursuit and his father backing him up. Yet now, the heavenly enchantress treated an unknown man like this right before him. Bai Jian struggled to accept this, especially because the person was also extremely outstanding, no weaker than himself in strength or appearance. Moreover, the heavenly enchantress just seemed to treat this unknown man extremely closely. Some other thoughts could not help but spring up in Bai Jian's head. Bai Jian, you and I are strangers. Why must I explain so much to you? As the mistress of the island, I have the right to restrict the entry of certain people. Leave. In the future, do not ever return. The heavenly enchantress's cold voice boomed in the sky. It was filled with mercilessness, without signs of any emotions. Strangers. Stranger. You say strangers. Heavenly enchantress, so my place in your heart is only that. Whatever, since you're unwilling, I'll go find my father. I'll go get father to propose the marriage. Bai Jian breathed heavily, about to leave. Sigh. The heavenly enchantress's gentle sigh resounded midair. A purple figure appeared on the island shortly afterward. With a single step, the figure traversed over 10 kilometers and appeared before Bai Jian. Bai Jian, you should give up on that thought. Even if you get your father to come, it's useless, said the heavenly enchantress expressionlessly. Without any hesitation, Jian Chen immediately charged at Bai Jian, who was in the middle of charging up the battle skill. Jian Chen yelled, Bai Jian, so what if you know a Saint-tier battle skill? I want to see how you're able to cast it. Learning about the power of the battle skill, Jian Chen gave up on his original idea, where he wanted to see its power. No matter how confident he was in himself, he did not want to receive a battle skill that could even kill Saint Kings so easily. This was because he knew that even if he did not die after taking it on, he would become heavily injured as a result. It was not worth it at all. Jian Chen arrived before Bai Jian. Without giving him any more time to charge up the battle skill, he directly threw a punch that struck toward Bai Jian's chest with lightning speed. Spurt. Bai Jian vomited a mouthful of blood, immediately flying backward. His charge up for the battle skill was also forcefully disrupted. I will definitely kill you. Bai Jian was stubborn. He was extremely determined to kill Jian Chen. Forcefully enduring his injuries, he retreated several kilometers with a flash and cast the battle skill once again. It was much faster than last time too. Instantly, gusts of wind appeared and the clouds began to churn in the surroundings. A huge dark cloud floated over him, flashing with lightning from time to time. The seawater under him flowed in reverse and pushed up blue water spouts to connect the sky and the earth right in between the two of them. Jian Chen became grim. He pulled out the dragon-slaying sword from his space ring and stabbed out 3 times. 3 powerful sword chi shot out, cutting through the obstruction of the sea water with a devastating aura as it directly headed for Bai Jian. As Bai Jian was amidst the charge-up for his Saint-tier battle skill, he was unable to divert his attention and block the 3 sword chi. He could only dodge. He avoided 2 of the sword chi, while the final one shot through his chest and destroyed his heart. Bai Jian produced a groan. His saint weapon was raised high up in his right hand as he grit his teeth and hung on. He had arrived at the final stages. He only needed to hang in there a little longer, and the Saint-tier battle skill would be successfully cast. The sky had become gloomy due to the charge-up of the battle skill despite being originally sunny. Murky clouds covered the sky while lightning and thunder flashed and rumbled. Wild wind whistled in the surroundings, while the sea below churned violently. An extremely vast and boundless pressure slowly radiated outward, like a primordial beast slowly awakening from its slumber. I need to disrupt his casting of the battle skill as soon as possible. Jian Chen's eyes became icy cold. He charged at Bai Jian against the wild wind with his sword in hand. Rumble! Suddenly, a great bolt of lightning descended from the sky without any warning, accurately striking Jian Chen. Jian Chen trembled violently. His skin immediately became burnt black. The powerful electricity snaked wildly through his body and caused him to become numb all over. He then lost control of his body. God damn it, it'll be troublesome now. Jian Chen swore in his heart. His body was now completely frozen and immobilized. He did not even have the power to stay in the air any longer, and he directly fell out of the sky toward the boundless sea below. 2 seconds later, Jianchen finally recovered from the numbness after falling into the sea. He shot out of the water like a cannonball toward Bai Jian. Bai Jian had reached the end of his charge-up for the Saint Tier battle skill now. His 2 hands formed a seal and he bellowed, "Saint Tier battle skill Grand Destruction." Thrum! Before Bai Jian could finish his words, a gentle note suddenly appeared. It seemed to carry a boundless charm, and it was heard clearly by Bai Jian. Bai Jian's eyes immediately became blank. Afterward, he seemed to lose all the power in his body, falling into the ocean just like Jianchen before. Without Bai Jian guiding it, the battle skill that had basically been charged up also seemed to lose its source of energy. It ran out of power, before slowly dispersing. The zither note had only stunned Bai Jian temporarily. It made unconscious but could not harm his life. Bai Jian woke up very quickly after hitting the water, bursting out of the sea immediately. He looked toward 3 Saint Island angrily and roared in exasperation. "Heavenly Enchantress! Heavenly Enchantress! You actually ruined what I was doing. You're still protecting him. You're still protecting him." I spurt. Toward the end, Bai Jian's anger back surged. His blood flowed up his body, and he sprayed a large mouthful of blood into the air as a mist. He had already become sheet white. "Heavenly Enchantress, I will be back. Brat, I don't care who you are, Bai Jian will obliterate you." Throwing down these vicious threats, Bai Jian quickly moved off into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. The battle skill was disrupted at a crucial moment, so he was struck by an extremely powerful backlash. He was heavily injured, and combined with his back surge of anger and his destroyed heart, he was not in fighting shape, already a spent force. Watching as Bai Jian's figure disappeared into the distance, Jianchen produced a long sigh. He felt extremely helpless. He never thought that he would somehow offend a great saint ruler because of this. And the saint ruler seemed to be of an extraordinary background. Never would I think that something like this would happen. Fortunately, the Heavenly Enchantress helped me in the crucial moment, otherwise, it would have been troublesome for me. Jianche murmured softly. The dark clouds disappeared from the sky, recovering its sooniness from before. At this very moment 5 colored clouds suddenly appeared and enveloped the entire sky. Chapter 853. Departure. The 5 colored clouds radiated with a gentle and magnificent light that flooded the entire sky. It spread out grandly in all directions, enveloping a radius of 100,000 kilometers from the initial 5 kilometers before stopping. The light shone on the surface of the sea and dyed the water rainbow. The entire world seemed to be filled with the 5 colors, as if it was a dream. Jianchen floated in the sky. He stared excitedly at the colorful clouds in the sky and murmured, "He broke through. Grandpa broke through successfully. He has finally overcome the seal in his sea of consciousness and reached Saint Ruler." Afterward, Jianchen turned into a faint blur, shooting toward 3 Saint Island with lightning speed. He quietly guarded outside the cave to protect his grandfather. At this very moment, a dozen or so figures soared from below 3 Saint Island, and they flickered with the light of special attributes. They were the residents of 3 Saint Island, who had already reached Heaven's Saint Master, and they were clearly alarmed by the appearance of the rainbow clouds in the sky. Other than them, close to 100 figures flickered at the foot of 3 Saint Island. They were Earth Saint Master residents who could not fly, and they all used various techniques to travel through the forests and hurried toward the top of the mountain. Whether it was the Heaven Saint Masters flying in the sky, or the Earth Saint Master traversing over land, they all stopped as soon as they approached the mountain peak. Afterward, they all bowed courteously towards the mountain top and said, "This fisherman of the island wishes to see the island mistress and the 2 saintesses. May I ask just what is happening regarding the sudden phenomenon in the sky?" These people all carried expressions of extreme respect. To them, the mistress of the island and her 2 disciples were like gods. They were sacred and inviolable. This was because 1,000 years ago, 3 Saint Island was still an ordinary island. The fishermen inhabitants were normal and ordinary people, with no connection to the Tianyuan continent. They lived lives of solitude and did not know how to cultivate at all. Even if there were experts who passed by from time to time, they would receive no attention at all. However, ever since the heavenly enchantress settled here, the lives of the fishermen had changed. Not only did she pass on the method of cultivation, she even directed them and assisted their cultivation. As a result, the residents of the island were freed from their ordinary lives, embarking on the path of obtaining great power as fighters. Meanwhile, the heavenly enchantress and her 2 disciples naturally became divine gods to the residents. For this reason, the originally ordinary island was named Three Saint Island. With a thought, Jianchen suddenly created a transparent barrier around the top of the mountain as he guarded the cave. He said, "You can leave. Don't worry about the phenomenon in the sky." Jianchen's voice was not loud, but all the fishermen around the mountain heard it clearly. Hearing this unfamiliar voice, the Heaven Saint Master fishermen all became stunned. Immediately a brave person asked, "May I ask who Senior is?" "All of you leave. You don't need to pay any attention to the phenomenon in the sky." Xiao Qian's voice appeared from the cave, clearly heard by all the fishermen. "Yes, Saintess." Only after hearing Xiao Qian's familiar voice did the fishermen finally leave. However, each of them were extremely skeptical. Clearly, this was the first time they had ever seen these rainbow clouds in the sky. At the same time, over 20 elders of the Radiant Saint Master Union sat cross-legged in a secret room in the headquarters at Mercenary City. They were casting a secret technique to search for the Saint artifact. In the 4 years since the Saint artifact had been lost, they had worked together to cast the secret technique to scour the continent in search of the artifact's presence from time to time. They would not even miss the ocean. Although they ended in failure every time, they did not show any intentions of giving up. Meanwhile, the news that the artifact was lost had been kept a secret by the Union and the 3 great clans. It had been concealed perfectly. Extremely few people knew about it, but they were all told to stay quiet about it by the 3 great clans. This was because as soon as the Union collapsed, the entire empire would suffer a loss. Suddenly, all 20-odd elders snapped open their eyes at the same time. They all revealed expressions of joy. "We found it. It's in the ocean. We found the precise location of the communication jade on Yang Yutian. I never thought that Yang Yutian would keep the communication jade on him. Fantastic. We haven't found the presence of the artifact, but we found the communication jade instead. The whereabouts of the communication jade will definitely be Yang Yutian's location. We need to go there quickly. Contact Elder Jia immediately. Get him to rip open space and create a space gate to the ocean. He'll come with us. We must reclaim the Saint artifact." The rainbow clouds lasted for 6 whole hours before slowly dispersing. A while later, the surroundings recovered its peace. Ha 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 ha. Shortly afterward, a loud series of laughter resounded from a cave on the mountain peak. Changyang Zhu Yingkong excitedly walked out from it in long white robes. Breaking through to Saint Ruler, Changyang Zhu Yinxiao's bearings also underwent a great change. Although he was still an old man, his haggardness had disappeared, and he seemed normal again. His face had a healthy glow, and he was in high spirits. Compared to his sickly appearance from before, he seemed like a completely different person. "I've finally broken through. Finally broken through. Never would I've thought that I, Changyang Zhu Yingkong, would have a day where I reach Saint Ruler," Changyang Zhu Yingkong said excitedly. The joy and emotions he currently experienced had already reached the absolute limit. "Congratulations on reaching Saint Ruler. You don't need to suffer pain like in the past anymore." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu walked out of the cave with their zither in their hands. They both congratulated Changyang Zhu Yingkong with smiles. "Grandfather, congratulations on your breakthrough." Jianchen also came up to congratulate his grandfather. He too was filled with joy for saving Changyang Zhu Yingkong's life. "It's all because I have such a great grandson. If it weren't for grandson's dragon's saliva, I probably would not have been able to survive for another 30 years. Changyang Zhu Yingkong was emotional, and his gaze toward Jianchen was filled with gratitude. "Grandfather, now that your problem has been temporarily resolved, I wonder what you want to do in the future?" Jianchen asked. When Jianchen mentioned this, Changyang Zhu Yingkong gradually calmed down. After a period of silence, he said, "So many years have passed, and I don't even know how well the Changyang clan is doing now. I left the clan previously in search of a method to break through. Now that I have broken through, it's about time for me to return. Xiao Qian said on one side. Changyang Zhu Yingkong, Master said your talent is rather great. When you were just a 6th cycle Heaven Saint Master, it was enough for the laws of the world to descend by themselves. In the future, you will definitely improve extremely quickly in your cultivation. But you must keep in mind that the seal in your mind has only been temporarily suppressed. It has not been resolved completely, so you must not power up too quickly. Otherwise, you will only be faced with a similar pain in the future. Changyang Zhu Yingkong nodded prudently, showing that he had understood. He clasped his hands at Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. I thank you for looking after me for all these years. I wonder where the island mistress is? I would like to see her and personally thank her for saving my life. No need to do that. Our mistress is currently in seclusion. It's best if you don't disturb her for something like that, Xiao Yu said. Fair enough. But I will always remember the mistress's kindness for saving me forever. If there is the chance in the future, I will definitely return it several times over. Changyang Zhu Yingkong said with determination. After that, he looked toward Jian Chen and said, Grandson, grandfather misses the Changyang clan. I want to return immediately. You should come with grandfather. No, grandfather, I still have important matters to attend to. I won't be going back to the continent with you, Jian Chen said hurriedly. He did not dare to return to the continent as of right now. That's fine. Since you have things to attend to, I'll be returning first, Changyang Zhu Yingkong said, before bidding farewell to the group. He left all by himself. He had already spent too much time away from the Changyang clan. He missed the people there very much, so he left in haste as soon as he recovered. With Changyang Zhu Yingkong's matter resolved, Jian Chen no longer needed to stay on the island. He also bid farewell to Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu. Ladies, I still have matters to attend to, so I can't stay on the island for too long. I shall be leaving. After conversing with Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu some more, Jian Chen found where the heavenly enchantress had gone into seclusion with his powerful presence. He directly flew over there. The heavenly enchantress went into seclusion in one of the caves at the back of the mountain. Currently, the cave was tightly closed, blocked up by a huge rock door. Standing before the door, Jian Chen became slightly mixed with emotions. After some hesitation, he pulled out a large pile of dragon's saliva from his space ring and placed it gently on the ground. I know this dragon's saliva is very helpful to you. You need it more than me. I'll only keep 10 of them from all of the ones obtained from Fantasy Star Ocean. I'll give the rest to you. After he placed down the dragon's saliva, Jian Chen left silently. He flew toward the faraway distance, but from the very start till the end, the heavenly enchantress never appeared. She did not even say anything. Jian Chen flew off the island with mixed emotions. Afterward, he expanded his powerful presence, immediately enveloping a radius of 5,000 kilometers, finally finding Newbies, who was 1,000 kilometers under the ocean. Newbies immediately shot through the ocean and arrived in the sky above the region where he had gone into seclusion. He immediately began to radiate with a powerful aura, which spread outward in all directions. It immediately caused the calm ocean surface below him to turn stormy. Bang! Suddenly, the sea surface beneath him exploded. A figure radiating with a powerful golden light shot out from the sea, accompanied by a powerfully vast and boundless presence. Ha 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 ha, kiddo Jian Chen. You've finally come out. If you didn't come out, I, the great Newbies, would have gone into the Fantasy Star Ocean in search of you. Chapter 854. Arrival of the Union. Ha 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 ha, kiddo Jian Chen. You've finally come out. If you didn't come out, I, the great Newbies, would have gone into the Fantasy Star Ocean in search of you. The golden light around Newbies was dazzling, radiating far and wide like a sun. The surrounding space trembled greatly due to the vast and boundless energy emitted from his body. Jian Chen stared at the shining Newbies in interest and laughed softly. Newbies, looks like you've reaped quite the harvest from secluded cultivation in the past few years. I can feel that your strength has completely exceeded the 7th heavenly layer. The light around newbies slowly faded and revealed the figure beneath. Perhaps it was due to his great increase in strength, but the golden robes on newbies seemed even shinier. It vaguely seemed to be covered by a golden glow. Newbies' face was filled with joy. He traversed several hundred meters in a single step and arrived before Jian Chen and directly threw a punch at his shoulder. Newbies laughed. Jian Chen, I never thought that just from a mere trip to the Fantasy Star Ocean, you'll come back without your purity. TSK. Looks like the harvest you reaped from the journey is quite great too. Tell me honestly, did you hook up with that demoness? As a beast of antiquity, Newbies' senses were much more powerful compared to humans. He could tell with a single glance. Jian Chen purposefully avoided this question and said, Newbies, let's not talk about this. Let's talk about you instead. How is it? You must have improved greatly with a few years of secluded cultivation. Of course. Newbies was excited. I've absorbed around 70% of the hidden essence in that old snake. That hidden essence contained the old snake's comprehension of the mysteries of the world. I've fused with them completely, turning it into my own power. Right now, I'm a peak class 7 magical beast. In the words of you humans, I'm equivalent to a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler. I'll be able to break through to class 8 in one go if you give me some more time, and I absorb the remaining hidden essence from that old snake. When he heard this, Jian Chen jumped in shock, even though he had mentally prepared himself beforehand. Newbies had increased his strength from the 3rd heavenly layer to the 9th heavenly layer in 4 short years. This speed of improvement was so great that it even made him tongue-tied. His improvements in this time paled in comparison to Newbies. Jian Chen, I can feel that you've grown much stronger too. Looks like you've gotten your hands on quite some stuff from this trip to the Fantasy Star Ocean. Newbies stared at Jian Chen deeply and sniggered. Alright, let's not talk about this for now. Newbies, we've stayed here for quite a long time already. The people on the Tianyuan continent should be expanding their search into the ocean soon. We should leave here quickly. The earlier we get to the location of the sea race, the earlier we get to safety, Jian Chen said. Alright, let's go to where the sea race is first. If that other powerful old snake on the beast god continent calls on a great group of people to deal with me, the great Newbies, will be in danger. As soon as he finished speaking, Newbies' face froze. A light immediately exploded from his eyes, and he glared up ahead. The space where Newbies was looking at began to distort violently before it was ripped open. A space gate suddenly appeared, and an old man in simple clothes stepped out. The moment Jian Chen saw this old man, his gaze froze. He was not unfamiliar with him. It was the old man he had first seen wiping the tables in the Radiant Saint Tower. Behind the old man, figures constantly stepped out. First, there were fighters in various attires, a total of 8 saint rulers. Only afterward did a group of white-robed Radiant Saint Masters appear, totaling at over 20 people. All of them bore a shiny purple badge on their chests. They were actually all Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters, and among them was the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, and the Great Elder. Only after great difficulty had the Union found Jian Chen's whereabouts. In order to retrieve the Saint artifact successfully, they had basically come with their full force. Yang Yutian, I've finally found you. An old voice boomed from the group. A white-robed old man walked out at this time. He was the president of the Union. Compared to a few years ago, the president seemed much older. His face was filled with wrinkles, while his expression was haggard. In these years, the matter about the Saint artifact had tortured him quite some bit. The president looked toward Jian Chen with extremely mixed emotions. His heart was filled with bitterness. Once upon a time, he had accepted Jian Chen as his disciple without the slightest hesitation after he found out about his talent. He even planned to choose a successor for the union between him and Yun Tian. In the days that followed, Jian Chen's behavior only became more outstanding. He grasped the forbidden Arte God's descent with his power as a Class 6, Radiant Saint Master, and slaughtered over 30 Heaven Saint Masters, all by himself on Fragrance River. It shook him greatly, and at the same time, it consolidated his idea of raising Jian Chen to be the future successor of the Union. He had even begun to view his other disciple, Yun Tian, as a chess piece to temper Jianshan. He was filled with hopes toward Jianshan. However, he never thought that the Jianshan he had placed high hopes on possessed another identity. Not just that, he even took away the saint artifact of the Union, almost causing the entire Union to come crashing down, falling into a state beyond recovery. This pained him to the extreme. Right now, he saw his disciple who had bore his high hopes once again. The president's heart experienced both love and hatred. He loved Jianshan's unprecedented talent and hated Jianshan's following actions, as well as the fact that he had almost brought the Union to utter damnation. Yang Yitian, Jianshan, Changyang Xiangtian. I don't know how I should refer to you. The president sighed gently. His face was filled with exhaustion. President, it's best if you call me Jianshan, Jianshan said. All right, I'll call you Jianshan. Jianshan, is the saint artifact on you? The president asked. After some deliberation, Jianshan replied, President, the saint artifact is indeed on me, but I can't give it to you right now. Yang Yutian, the saint artifact belongs to the Union. You actually tried to take it for yourself. So much for the Union treating you the way we did in the past. For you to do something like this. We really have been treating you too nicely. The ninth elder could not help but curse. Jianshan, the saint artifact is extremely important to the Union. Think about how we once treated you. You really should return it to us, said the Grand Elder. His voice carried the trace of pleading. Grand Elder, President, it's not that I don't want to return the artifact, but the artifact has a spirit, and it's already taken me as its master. What? The artifact has taken you as its master? How is that possible? The president paled from shock. He clearly knew about the artifact's spirit's existence. A golden light shot from the center of Jianshan's eyebrows, landing directly in the middle of his palm. It formed a golden palm-sized tower. When they saw the golden tower, skepticism appeared in the eyes of the group. Although the artifact had been with the Union for countless years, there were not many people who had seen its true form. None among them had seen it. Even the president was no exception. Artifact spirit, explain it to the president yourself, Jianshan said to the artifact spirit. The artifact spirit abided to Jianshan's words, immediately communicating with the president through a sliver of a thought. The president's expression immediately became courteous. As the president of the Union, he knew extremely clearly just what the artifact's spirit was. It was equivalent to a saint emperor. Even though that was only the case in the artifact space, it still carried a great force of deterrence. A while later, the president's courteous expression disappeared. He sighed at the sky while his face was filled with helplessness. Afterward, his gaze toward Jianshan became even more complicated, with deep shock sandwiched in between. Grand Elder, President, I know exactly how important the artifact is to the Union. Without it, the Union will not have any more origin energy. But I can help you solve that problem. Jianshan pulled out a purple medallion from his space ring and continued. Grand Elder, this was the medallion you gave me all those years ago. I've stored several dozen strands of the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force within it. It should be able to deal with the imminent problems the Union faces. As he spoke, Jianshan tossed out the purple medallion. It stopped before the Grand Elder, and he took it up and sensed it. A sliver of joy immediately sprang up on his face, and he said, There really are several dozen strands of origin energy inside. With that, slivers of joy appeared on the faces of the elders too. Jianshan continued, I know this won't work out in the long term. There will be a day where the origin energy will be consumed entirely, but 50 years in the future, I will fill up the purple medallion again. During this period of wait, I hope you can collect some more objects that can store origin energy. Jianshan, since the saint artifact has already taken you as its master, you should go. My Union will not be troubling you, though I hope in 50 years' time, you will do as you have promised and replenish the Union's supply of origin energy, sighed the president. Since the artifact had already accepted him as its master, this was the president's only choice. If the artifact had not done that, they could still restrict Jianshan's actions and search through his space ring for it. But now this was impossible. Once the artifact took a master, they could only kill Jianshan to get it back. However, they did not have the courage to do that at all. This was because if they killed Jian Chun, it was equivalent to the union completely offending the Changyang clan and the Pure Heart Pavilion of the 10 Protector clans, as well as the Arctic Ice God Hall, that even the Protector clans feared very much. Chapter 855. Whereabouts exposed. Reaching an agreement with the people of the Radiant Saint Master Union, they felt right afterward. They did not mention any excessive requests, unwilling to offend Jianchen too much. With the departure of the Union, Jianchen and newbies also left and traveled toward the territory of the sea race. Toward the back of Three Saint Mountain, a heavy stone door slowly rose up, revealing a pitch-black cave. With a series of gentle footsteps, the purple-dressed heavenly enchantress emerged slowly with her zither in her hands. When she arrived at the entrance of the cave, the heavenly enchantress stared distractedly at the several dozen stalks of dragon's saliva on the ground silently. Her eyes were mixed with emotions. These grasses were all obtained by Jian Chen through his relationship with the golden divine dragon Ruijin. Every single stalk approached 1,000,000 years in age. On the Tianyuan continent, they were priceless treasures. Jian Chen had actually only kept 10 of them for himself and gave the rest to her. It moved the heavenly enchantress deeply once again. A while later, she seemed to return to her senses. The zither of the demonic cry disappeared from her hands, and she slowly squatted down. She extended her white, elegant hand to carefully collect the grasses off the ground. Afterward, she entered the cave once again. A dozen or so fist-sized luminous pearls were lodged into the ceiling of the cave, shining with gentle light. The heavenly enchantress sat with her legs crossed on a huge jade rock, her expression dejected. Meanwhile, she could not help but think back to all the things that had happened in the Fantasy Star Ocean, as well as everything she had experienced in the space formed by the Yinyang Saint Rock. She also thought back to the words of the great human expert, Emotianyan. Jian Chun, you may have taken my body, but you saved my life at the same time. Should I be hating you? The heavenly enchantress muttered softly. She seemed rather despondent. Since she was too emotional when she had just woke up, she did some reckless things. She wanted to kill Jian Chen as an outlet for her hatred. But afterward, when she slowly calmed down, she also thought through it gradually. Jian Chen had no other choice when he did it as well. If he did not do that, both of them would have died there, never to be able to see the outside sun ever again. Additionally, she had gained great benefits despite losing the most precious object a woman had. Her strength skyrocketed after absorbing the energies from the balancing of yin and yang, and the thin supreme yin qi on the surface of the rock. She had reached a level of strength that even she herself found incredible. At noon on the next day, a space gate suddenly appeared above Three Saint Island. An ordinary-looking, middle-aged man stepped out of it with Bai Jian, who seemed much more aged. The man's gaze was cold, without the slightest emotion. His face was filled with a condescending air, as if there were extremely few things in the world that he would actually not look down upon. Bai Jian stood beside him and yelled toward Three Saint Island, "Heavenly Enchantress, come out. My father has personally come this time. Is this how you are going to treat your guests? Senior Bai Yifei has come personally. I have failed to welcome from afar, so please forgive me. However, I am currently in the middle of secluded cultivation. I am unable to receive guests personally, so please forgive me, Senior Bai Yifei. Xiao Qian Xiao Kei, receive Senior Bai Yifei instead of me, please." The heavenly enchantress's voice boomed in the sky, but the origins of it could not be found from the sound alone. The voice seemed to carry a great charm, able to bewitch people. As soon as Bai Jian heard it, a sliver of bewilderment appeared on his face. He had almost lost his composure. A gleam of light immediately flashed across Bai Yifei's eyes. He said in surprise, "Heavenly Enchantress, I didn't think your strength would increase so quickly. You've actually broken through from Saint Ruler to Saint King." "What? Dad, what did you say? The Heavenly Enchantress is a Saint King now?" Bai Jian looked at his father in disbelief. He was astounded. "Correct," Bai Yifei said gruffly. Even he struggled to believe the speed at which the Heavenly Enchantress was improving. "Impossible. When we met in the Holy Land of Mercenary City a few years ago, Her strength was the same as me, a sixth heavenly layer Saint Ruler. How could she reach Saint King from the sixth heavenly layer in just a few short years? That's impossible. Bai Jian was filled with incredulity. Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu flew up from Three Saint Island. As soon as they heard their master had already reached Saint King, they were overjoyed. Afterward, they invited the two guests onto the island with an extremely courteous tone. Bai Jian and Bai Yifei remained in the sky without moving. Bai Yifei said, "Where is that person who injured my son? Are you speaking about Master Jianchen?" "Master Jianchen left long ago. We too do not know where he has gone." Xiao Qian got straight to the point. "What did you say? Jianchen?" Hearing this name, Bai Yifei's expression changed instantly. They immediately began to shine with interest, changing from the indifference of before. He pulled out a drawing from his space ring and said, "Look at this carefully. Is this the Jianchen you're talking about?" Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu accepted the drawing and looked at it together with doubt. Afterward, they nodded simultaneously and Xiao Qian said, "Correct, he's Master Jianchen." "Senior Bai Yifei, why would you have a drawing of Master Jianchen?" Xiao Qian's voice was filled with curiosity. "You don't need to worry about that. Tell me honestly, just where is Jianchen?" Bai Yifei was stern. "We really don't know." Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu were both clueless. Seeing how Xiao Qian and Xiao Yu did not seem to be lying, Bai Yifei did not trouble them any further. He said gruffly, "Bai Jian, let's go." With that, Bai Yifei turned around and immediately set up a space gate. Without saying anything else, he disappeared into the space gate as he pulled Bai Jian with him. Distance was not a problem to Supreme Saint Kings. They only needed a single step to traverse millions, or even tens of million kilometers. Bai Yifei ripped open another two space gate one after another to return to the continent. Afterward, he immediately met up with his good friends that were extremely close to him, reporting to them about Jianchen appearing in the ocean. His good friend was a great elder from the Yuan sect of the 10 great clans. He was a Saint King too, and when he heard this news, he was immediately astounded. "Bai Yifei, are you serious? Jianchen's really appeared in the ocean?" The great elder became excited. "I'm absolutely certain. I've already gotten authentication for it, and he's even injured my son," Bai Yifei said confidently. "Correct. The person who injured me is indeed in the drawing. He looks exactly the same. He must be Jianchen." Bai Jian also saw the drawing of Jianchen and swore solemnly, "Fantastic. I'll go contact the other great elders right now. We'll pursue him in the ocean immediately," said the great elder just as he was leaving. "Wait," Bai Yifei stopped the great elder. "Ling Yuanzi, even just one of us can deal with Jianchen easily. There's no need to mobilize everyone. Also, if the great elders of your Yuan sect all move out at the same time, it will probably raise some suspicion among the other protector clans. At that time, it'll be hard to know who the winged tiger god will end up with. The most important thing is that Jianchen has already left Three Saint Island. I myself have no idea exactly where he's gone. If you take too much time, he'll run quite far away. The difficulty of the search will increase too. If it weren't for the fact that I did not know a long-range searching technique and could not find Jianchen, I would have grabbed him long ago and delivered him to your Yuan sect." Brother Bai Yifei is right. My Yuan sect owes you a great favor for this time. We can't drag this out. Let's move out right now. The great elder Ling Yuanzi and the father-son duo immediately slashed open the space around them and headed toward the ocean. Jianchen and newbies currently hurried along through the use of spatial force high up in the blue sky above the ocean. They formed vague blurs, directly traveling in the direction of the sea race's territory. According to my inherited memories, the sea race should not be far from us. There should just be another few thousand kilometers. Newbies communicated through a mental message. Newbies, we already have some rough understandings of the strength of the sea race. They're much more powerful than the Tian Yuan continent. We need to be careful when we get there. We must not cause too great of a commotion, or it'll be very difficult for us to survive. Jianchen lectured sternly. "I know. You don't need to tell me this. As outsiders, we'll face the rejection from the native sea race for sure. If we deal with it badly, We might even become public enemies of them, hunted down by the entire sea race. Newbies also understood the good and bad. It was the first time he had seemed so careful. At this very moment, Jian Chen's complexion changed suddenly. With his much more powerful presence, he could clearly feel an extremely obscure ripple rush past the two of them. Oh no, some experts have discovered us. If it's not by Jian's father, then it's the experts from the continent. We need to increase our speed immediately, Jian Chen said seriously. With that, Newbies' complexion changed too. He swore. This must be because of the Union reporting to the 10 protector clans. Those bastards. They want to use the 10 clans to eliminate you and retrieve their saint artifact. Jian Chen, your comprehension of the mysteries of the world is too low. I'll carry you and run. Newbies grabbed Jian Chen's hand, and his strength, as a 9th heavenly layer saint ruler, exploded without holding back at all. He pushed the mysteries of space to the limit and disappeared into the horizon like he was teleporting. Newbies was extremely fast, but he was still not faster than Saint Kings in the end. The space before them began to distort violently, and a space gate formed quickly. Immediately, a vast and boundless aura radiated from inside. This aura compressed space, causing the surrounding area to become viscous. Both Jian Chen and Newbies immediately felt like they had become submerged in mud. There was great resistance to their movements. Jian Chen, I want to see where will you run this time? An old voice boomed. The great elder of the Yuan sect, Ling Yuanzi, and the father-son duo walked out and blocked their path. Chapter 856. God descends again. The light in Newbies' eyes flickered violently. He quickly flashed past by Yifei and the great elder of the Yuan sect, while his face bore a sternness he had never shown before. He growled, 2 Saint Kings. Kiddo Jian Chen, we're screwed this time. We can't flee. Jian Chen's complexion also became extremely ugly. The dragon-slaying sword appeared in his hand immediately, and his presence underwent an overwhelming change. He radiated with a soaring presence, as if he was a drawn sword, already ready for a fight to the death. Even though he clearly knew he was not the opponent for 2 Saint Kings, Jian Chen did not stand down. Bai Yifei looked at Jian Chen with a sneer and said with disdain, Jian Chen, with your mere strength as a saint ruler, you still want to fight with us? You overestimate yourself. Jian Chen, I am a great elder of the Yuan sect, Ling Yuanzi. I do not want to harm you. All I hope for is that you can hand over the winged tiger god. As soon as I receive it, I will leave immediately and not cause you any trouble. Ling Yuanzi spoke up too, hoping to convince Jian Chen to hand over the winged tiger god. Currently, Jian Chen was extremely special. Even Ling Yuanzi himself did not want to offend Jian Chen unless he had to. Even when ignoring the fact that he was a member of the Protector Changyang clan, he also had a connection with the Pure Heart Pavilion, and most importantly, his sister was actually the Holy Maiden of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. They were a force that the Yuan sect was extremely fearful of. The Ice Goddess Hall had existed for an extremely long time. Even in the age where the 4 supreme champions who had surpassed Saint Emperor appeared, no one knew just how long the Ice Goddess Hall had existed. It was an extremely powerful force that even made the clans fearful in the ancient times. Even though they had never interfered with the matters of the continent, their presence still functioned as an extremely great deterrent. It'll be impossible if you want me to hand over the winged tiger god, Jian Chen said coldly. He did not leave any grounds for negotiations. Ling Yuanzi's face darkened. I've already given you a chance. If you still want to be so stubborn, I can only offend you. Ling Yuanzi cut to the chase and immediately moved against Jian Chen. The winged tiger god was extremely important, connecting directly with the fate of the Tianyuan continent. He could not spare this even if he had to offend the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall. Ling Yuanzi grabbed at the air. With Ling Yuanzi's powerful control over space as a Saint King, Jian Chen's surroundings froze immediately and turned into something like extremely tough ice. It even began to produce crunching sounds. Jian Chen and Newbies were both affected, immediately trapped there and immobilized. Ling Yuanzi was very confident in his own strength. He did not believe that 2 mere saint rulers could break free from his imprisonment of space even if one of them was a ninth heavenly layer saint ruler. The winged tiger god is not on you. You must have found a spatial artifact that can store living organisms. The winged tiger god must be hiding in there. If that's the case, allow me to look through your space ring. Ling Yuanzi said at this very moment. An aura of destruction exploded from Jianchen. Surging chaotic force caused the space around him to tremble. He had actually broken free from Ling Yuanzi's frozen space. How is this possible? You've broken through my locked space with your strength. What is this power? Ling Yuanzi became astounded and stared at the chaotic force that surrounded Jianchen's body in shock. He could feel weirdness and power from the chaotic force. It was a great force he had never seen before. Jianchen did not give Ling Yuanzi any time to react. The dragon-slaying sword shone brightly with a hazy light, stabbing toward Ling Yuanzi with lightning speed. The sword carried a devastating aura that quickly cut along the short distance. You dare to confine me, the great newbies? So what if you're a saint king? Allow me to witness the strength of a human saint king today. Newbies also recovered his ability to move. He immediately cried out, throwing a fist that radiated with a blinding, golden light toward Ling Yuanzi. Ling Yuanzi was still a saint king after all. He may have found it extremely unexpected for two weaker people to break free of his frozen space, but he did not become panic-stricken. With a wave of his hand, vast saint force surged from his body and instantly formed a wide shield before him. As Jianchen's sword and Nubis' fist collided with this shield, a great rumble was immediately produced. Violent ripples of energy and terrifying winds swept through the surroundings, wreaking havoc, causing space to distort and the seas to surge. Although Jianchen's chaotic force was very special, it was still not very pure in the end. It was only equivalent to a seventh heavenly layer saint ruler. When both of their attacks struck Ling Yuanzi's shield, it did not even budge, solidly receiving the attacks that were nearly their full power. Bloody hell! The disparity between saint ruler and saint king is just too great. I can only handle first heavenly layer saint kings, at most with my strength, as a ninth heavenly layer saint ruler. That old man's beyond the first heavenly layer. I can't do anything to him. Newbie sent a mental message to Jianchen, while the two of them were sent flying backward from the energy ripples. This Ling Yuanzi's strength is too great. We can't harm it at all even when we work together. Leave quickly. We need to reach the sea race as fast as we can. Foreign saint kings won't be able to enter their protective barrier. Jianchen replied to Newbies. I'll take you as I flee. That way my speed will be much greater. Newbies did not hesitate at all. Without becoming wrapped up in the battle, he pulled Jianchen as he used spatial force to flee into the distance. He traversed several dozen kilometers in the blink of an eye. Want to flee? Do you really think it'll be that easy? Bai Yifei sneered. He fused with the surrounding space and immediately disappeared with a step. When he reappeared, he had already covered several dozen kilometers, appearing before Jianchen and Newbies. He blocked their path. If I let the two of you escape under my watch, what dignity would I still have left as a saint king? Stay put. A cold light flickered in Bai Yifei's eyes. With a direct push of his palm, vast world force condensed turbulently and formed an invisible, enraged dragon that rushed at the two of them. The pair felt like they were struck viciously in the chest by a great mace. Even with their powerful bodies, they were unable to resist it. A mouthful of blood immediately spurted from Nubis' mouth. He paled, already heavily injured. Meanwhile, Jianchen was slightly better off due to the protection of his golden silk mail. However, it was still painful for him. His organs were shaken up violently and blood surged about. Both of them were sent flying far away. They only regained their stability after traveling over 10 kilometers. Jianchen, we can't escape. What do we do? Nubis' complexion was downcast. Jianchen said nothing while a light flickered about in his eyes. After a short moment, he gritted his teeth and cried out. Saint kings really are powerful. Even when Nubis and I work together, we struggle to resist a single strike from you, but you are not invincible. Today, I, Jianchen, will use my strength as a seventh heavenly layer saint ruler to heavily injure you two great saint kings, or even directly slaughter the two of you. Ha ha ha, Jianchen, you're a conceited, arrogant guy. I want to see how you can heavily injure two great saint kings with your strength as a seventh heavenly layer saint ruler. Bai Jian seemed to have heard the most hilarious joke in the world. He could not help but chuckle aloud, while his gaze toward Jian Chen was filled with disdain. A smile of disdain also curled up on Ling Yuanzi's face. Jian Chen, since you're so confident, then allow me to witness just what trump card you have to boast like this. Just what ability or technique do you have to threaten a fifth heavenly layer saint king? Bai Yifei also smiled in disdain. His gaze toward Jian Chen was as if he was looking at a joke. Even if a seventh heavenly layer saint ruler cast a saint tier battle skill, all they could do was threaten saint kings of the first or second heavenly layer. Both he and Ling Yuanzi were in the fifth heavenly layer. They could look down on seventh heavenly layer saint rulers completely. They were as weak as ants in their eyes. Determination appeared in Jian Chen's eyes. Without saying a word, he had already returned the dragon-slaying sword to his space ring. His two hands formed a seal before him, and a strand of radiant Saint Force origin energy immediately dispersed from his sea of consciousness. It formed an invisible energy that pervaded the surroundings as if they had fused. Jian Chen slowly closed his eyes as he maintained the weird seal with his hands. He raised his head up high, directing the center of his eyebrows at the sky. Suddenly, the light in the surroundings became brighter. The blue sky was enveloped by a layer of clouds with unknown origins. The clouds were snow-white and radiated with a dim light. It dyed the world snow-white. Even the blue sea was dyed completely. I offer 500 years of my life to cast the forbidden arte. God's descent. Jian Chen murmured with his eyes closed. He immediately felt the vitality in his body leak away quickly, combining with the arte that was charging up. Even Jian Chen found it a little hard to endure losing 500 years of vitality in one go. He immediately felt like he was out of power and extremely weak. The arte that was charging in the sky began to take shape quickly after Jian Chen infused 500 years of his life into it. The white clouds that enveloped the surrounding space glowed brightly, radiating with a blinding light. It completely outshone the sun and caused the entire world to be enveloped in a snow-white dye. At that very moment, that white light seemed to be the only thing in the world. Crap! He's casting the forbidden arte of Radiant Saint Masters, God's Descent. God damn it! How did I forget that Jian Chen was a Radiant Saint Master too? Ling Yuanzi paled in fright. He had finally become serious. This Jian Chen is actually a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master. The rumors say that Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters casting the God's Descent is enough to threaten Saint Kings. And he's even used 500 years of his life. This God's Descent will definitely be terrifyingly powerful. We can't let him cast it successfully. Interrupt it right now. Bai Yifei's previous calmness and confidence had also disappeared. His tone became rather hurried, and he simultaneously attacked Jian Chen together with Ling Yuanzi. They hoped to interrupt the arte in its charging up phase. Chapter 857. Heavily injuring two Saint Kings God's Descent. At this very moment, these two words were slowly pronounced by Jian Chen. His voice seemed to be filled with infinite mysteries, reverberating with the world. This plain voice directly pierced the 9 heavens and beyond. A visible ripple quickly expanded in all directions with Jian Chen as the center. Wherever it passed by, space would freeze instantly. Even the two great Saint Kings, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi, were immobilized. Other than them, newbies and Bai Jian were affected too. They also became locked up in the frozen space and unable to move. At that very moment, everything became silent. Air stopped moving. Time stopped flowing. Even the surging seas beneath them became extremely quiet. The white light in the sky shone brighter and brighter, becoming more and more blinding. A vast pressure from the surroundings appeared, as if it originated from the 9 heavens. The pressure seemed to be from a god, descending from the sky with a lofty aura. It deeply shocked the two Saint Kings. Arg! 2 long howls enveloped the surroundings. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi had actually used their powerful bodies to forcefully break free from the restraints. They did not hold back at all, rushing at Jian Chen with soaring auras. They wanted to interrupt his arte. At this very moment, a great pillar of white light descended from the skies. It completely enveloped a radius of 50 kilometers, and the laws of the world in that region began to immediately distort violently. In that very moment, the region encased by the pillar of light seemed to become its own, independent world. The expressions of both Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi greatly changed. They felt that they had completely lost their powers as Saint Kings. Their control over the mysteries of space and world force seemed to have vaporized completely in this moment. They could not feel it at all. Other than that, they became restrained once again. This time, the restraint was not space but an indescribable weird energy, as if it was the power of laws completely unfamiliar to them. Jianchen closed his eyes and maintained the hand seal, floating in midair just like before. At that very moment, his soul stretched toward infinity and completely fused with the space enveloped by the white pillar of light. A wondrous feeling rose from the bottom of his heart, as if he had already become God, a prominent omnipotent God, able to control all life within this region of space. He was the absolute ruler of this world. Boom! With a violent rumble, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi broke free from the restraints of the laws with their powerful strengths once again. Surrounded by powerful and tremendous saint force, they struck out viciously at Jianchen with their palms. Jianchen slowly opened his eyes. Right now, he could clearly feel his greatness, as if he had really fused with a god. It made him feel that the 2/5 heavenly layer Saint Kings were not necessarily undefeatable. Jianchen slowly raised his right hand and pushed forward gently. A white, visible ripple shook the space as it expanded in the direction of Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi. This strike was not from chaotic force. It was not from any power he controlled, but the special powers of the laws in the domain. The powers of the laws collided with Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's hands, and immediately produced a violent rumble. Their expressions changed suddenly, and they shot backward with lightning speed. On their palms, a blood-red mark had already appeared. They were injured by the power of the laws. Jianchen coldly stared at the two of them. He felt like he had really fused with a god, and gained a terrifyingly powerful strength. He now controlled everything. He extended a finger at the two of them and murmured gently, "Annihilate." With a single word, Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's clothes immediately turned to dust. Cracks also appeared on their skin, and they bled out with bright red blood. They seemed like cracking pottery. Both of them were greatly shocked. They did not hold back at all, and with a violent roar, vast saint force poured from their bodies. A robust energy barrier blocked the destruction from the power of the laws. Right now they had each entered their own domain. Without their abilities as Saint Kings, all they could use was the saint force that they had not touched for a long time. This god's descent is too terrifying. If it were first or second heavenly layer Saint Kings who ended up in this place, they would definitely be doomed. Bai Yifei, let's attack Jianchen with our full strength. He can't last for long. Ling Yuanzi growled. Shortly afterward, a palm-width curved blade appeared in his hand, and he directly attacked Jianchen with it. He had already used his saint weapon. Bai Yifei brandished his saint weapon at the same time. His strength as a 5th heavenly layer Saint Kings burst out without any restraint, shooting toward Jianchen as a lightning bolt. Jianchen remained expressionless. All he did was extend a finger and immediately, inexhaustible light quickly condensed around it. It was all the power of the laws. Jianchen pointed gently twice. 2 specks of white light immediately shot toward the pair with lightning speed. These lights were completely formed from the power of the laws. The white specks of light directly passed through their saint weapons, breaking through their defenses, formed from radiant saint force, to directly strike their bodies. It passed through both of them, and left behind 2 bloody, thumb-sized holes that spurted with blood. Injured by the power of the laws, their injuries were definitely not as light as it seemed. They immediately vomited a mouthful of blood and became sheet white. Crap, that attack is illusionary yet corporeal. It's impossible to guard against. This arte is just too terrifying, Bai Yifei cried out. He had already become a mess, no longer bearing the demeanor from before. At this very moment, another 2 specks of power of the law shot from Jianchen's hand, directly traveling toward the center of their eyebrows. Their expressions changed greatly. The center of the eyebrows was where the origin soul resided, It was the most important part. If they suffered any injuries there, they would suffer an unendurable blow as well. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's foreheads were instantly wet with cold sweat. They pushed all their strength into fleeing, but at that crucial moment, they became immobilized by the invisible power of the laws once again. Spurt. The power of the laws broke through their external defenses and struck the center of their eyebrows accurately. Afterward, it broke out from the back of their heads and punched a hole through their brains. Arg! The two of them immediately produced chilling cries. Clutching their heads tightly with their hands, their faces were filled with pain. The origin souls of Saint Kings were extremely powerful. Wiping them out was not very easy. The power of the laws had pierced through the center of their eyebrows and heavily injured their origin souls, but it did not wipe them out. The injury to their origin souls caused them overwhelming pain. Without their control, the saint force that guarded their bodies slowly dispersed. Without the saint force, the power of the laws that seemed to be able to annihilate everything appeared once again. It wreaked havoc on their bodies mercilessly and caused every part of them to crack constantly. It covered them with blood. If they were not powerful saint kings and instead saint rulers, they would not be able to resist this terrifying destructive power at all. They would instantly turn into dust and be destroyed. It would be impossible for them to last this long. The surface of Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi's bodies had cracked completely. Their flesh turned into streaks of dust, currently being eaten away bit by bit. Arg! Jian Chen, I will break your god's descent. Saint tier battle skill sky upholding finger. Ling Yuanzi roared painfully. The saint force within him quickly began to surge, all condensing around his right index finger. Afterward, he pointed out with it. Immediately a huge, 10-meter-long finger suddenly appeared. It radiated with powerful energy ripples that caused space completely formed from the forbidden radiant arte to tremble violently. It was like it was cracking as it was unable to endure the pressure brought on by the finger. As soon as the huge finger condensed, it rushed toward Jian Chen with an unstoppable presence. Wherever it passed by, the snow-white world would immediately shatter and reveal pitch-black cracks in space. The power of the finger was enough to destroy this world. It exceeded the limit that the region of space could withstand, annihilating it. The giant finger locked onto Jian Chen's presence, enveloping the entire surroundings. Jian Chen was unable to flee. All he could do was devote all his strength to resisting it. He became stern, using all he had to control the power of the laws, to resist the Saint tier battle skill cast by Ling Yuanzi. Boom! With the collision of the laws and the finger, a great rumble immediately shook the region. In that instant, the region of space turned to blackness, and Jian Chen's radiant arte was also broken through by the finger. He was sent flying backward as he vomited blood, while the powerful energy brought on by the god's descent disappeared too. With the arte broken, the surrounding space recovered to how it was before. The violent energy from the Saint tier battle skill wreaked havoc midair and caused violent winds to blow through the surroundings. Furious tsunamis formed on the surface of the sea, raising waves as high as several hundred meters. Jian Chen. Seeing Jian Chen fly backward from afar, newbies cried out in shock, immediately flying over to catch him. Leave quickly! Jian Chen became as pale as snow. His expression was drained, and he spat out 2 words with great difficulty. He had failed to cast the god's descent completely, as it was forcefully broken through halfway by absolute power. It made Jian Chen receive great backlashes too. Additionally, he had been hit with a small portion of the Saint tier battle skill, and was greatly injured. Newbies did not waste any more time speaking, immediately fleeing toward the distance as he carried Jian Chen. Jian Chen, you've injured my origin soul so greatly that it'll even be difficult to recover completely with 1,000 years. How can I let you leave? Ling Yuanzi was disheveled and covered in blood, currently in a complete mess. His hatred for Jian Chen had already reached an unprecedented level. Jian Chen had heavily injured his origin soul, something that was extremely difficult to heal. He would no longer be able to make any more breakthroughs in the future. His cultivation would come to a halt if he could not rejuvenate his injured origin soul. Jian Chen, I want to obliterate you. The bloody Bai Yifei also roared angrily. He pursued in soaring rage, He had almost descended into madness. Bai Yifei did not have an organization as great as the 10 protector clans supporting him, so it was even more difficult for him to heal his injured origin soul. It was possible that he could not rejuvenate it at all in this lifetime. From now onward, it was extremely possible that he would remain as a 5th heavenly layer Saint King for all of eternity. Even though they were both heavily injured, they possessed terrifying strength. Along with the fact that the Radiant Arte was broken, they had regained their abilities as Saint Kings, catching up to newbies instantly. They directly struck newbies' back with a palm strike, causing him to vomit blood with no end. Enter the Saint Artifact. Jian Chen's voice was extremely weak. Soon afterward, a white light suddenly appeared, and it enveloped the two of them before it sucked them away. A fist-sized golden tower hung in the middle of the air, before turning into a golden streak of light, beginning its flight. It's useless no matter where you hide. I will take that tower back to the clan. I'd like to see how'd you leave it then. Ling Yuanzi seemed to have become an enraged lion. He prevented the Saint Artifact's escape by restraining it with the surrounding space before grabbing it. No matter how the artifact struggled, it was unable to break free from Ling Yuanzi's grasp. Chapter 858. Goddess of the Sea Race. The Saint Artifact trembled violently in Ling Yuanzi's hand. It wanted to break free, but no matter how it tried, it failed. Ling Yuanzi's hand seemed like a steel claw that grasped the artifact tightly. Disheveled, Ling Yuanzi stared viciously at the Saint Artifact in his hand. He laughed aloud. I never thought that this would be a treasure that can store living people. From today onward this belongs to me. Jian Chun, you injured my origin soul. I'll take your treasure as compensation. The trembling of the artifact became even more violent. It began to radiate brightly with golden light, but it was all to no avail. Although the artifact's spirit possessed the strength of a Saint Emperor within the artifact's space, its external abilities were too weak due to innate limitations. Even Saint Rulers would be able to restrain it, let alone Supreme Saint Kings. Jian Chun, give up. I want to see how you're able to escape from me. When I take you back to the clan, I have all the methods in the world to deal with you. Sneered Ling Yuanzi. Enveloped with a layer of powerful Saint force, he trapped the Saint Artifact in his palm, before he swung out with his other hand. He directly cut open the space and created a space gate, about to leave. At this very moment a vast, boundless energy appeared abruptly. It shot toward Ling Yuanzi viciously with an aura of destruction. The appearance of this energy was too sudden. It traveled too quickly, preventing Ling Yuanzi from reacting at all. It had also locked onto Ling Yuanzi's presence. He was unable to dodge at all. Meanwhile, a terrifying energy from the soul permeated the sky and forcefully collapsed the space gate ripped open by Ling Yuanzi. Ling Yuanzi roared out. He no longer suppressed his injuries and struck out with all he had toward the powerful energy that surged in his direction. His saint weapon exploded with light, and great energy rippled mightily in the surroundings. Afterward he swung down with it. This terrifying attack caused the space to be annihilated and revealed a patch of darkness. Boom! Ling Yuanzi was not a match for it when the two attacks collided. He was wounded greatly once again, sent flying backward as he vomited blood. His complexion became ghastly, now extremely weak. The Saint Artifact took advantage of this opportunity to break free from Ling Yuanzi's grasp, turning into a streak of golden light, and disappearing into the vast ocean below. Ling Yuanzi was astounded. The person who had attacked secretly was just too terrifying. Their strength completely exceeded his, which caused him a substantial shock. Ling Yuanzi struggled as he stayed afloat in the sky. He quickly pulled out a piece of jade from his space ring, before he crushed it without any hesitation. Only then did he greatly relax. I wonder who is it that struck out secretly, and has something against us 10 protector clans, to ruin what we're doing. Ling Yuanzi immediately became confident, and called out with difficulty. Bai Yifei also arrived before Ling Yuanzi with Bai Jian. He looked around cautiously. The person who had attacked secretly was just too powerful. Even at his peak, Bai Yifei had no confidence in absolute victory, much less now. At this very moment, A vague figure suddenly appeared 100 meters away from the three of them. She was a tall, slender woman in a blue dress, and seemed to be in her 20s. Her blue hair fell like a waterfall to her feet, while her face was illusionary, blurry and unable to be seen properly. All over, she radiated naturally with a unique aura. It was filled with holiness and nobility, as if she could not be offended. It disinclined people from being disrespectful from the bottom of their hearts. Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi were both surprised even though they were fifth heavenly layer Saint Kings. This was because the blurry, mysterious woman caused them to be filled with an urge to prostrate themselves. It shocked both of them very much to feel this. Even when they faced up against Saint Emperors, such as the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, or the Tiger Emperor Lankiros, they would not feel something like this. "Who are you?" Ling Yuanzi cried out. His confidence had already begun to slip away. He could feel the strength and terror of this mysterious woman. "Human, you've intruded into the territory of us, the sea race. Leave immediately." The illusionary woman's pearl-like teeth moved slightly. Her voice was calm and cold without any emotions. Ling Yuanzi was astonished. He asked with a gruff voice, "Are you a Saint Emperor from the sea race?" "I am the goddess of the sea race." The woman's voice was as calm as ever. "What? The sea goddess?" Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi paled in fright. They staggered backward, while waves of emotion roared through their hearts. "Leave the territory of my sea race in 3 seconds." The woman threw down a final sentence before she disappeared. She was now nowhere to be seen. However, her appearance had brought tremendous shock to both Bai Yifei and Ling Yuanzi. It stunned them on the spot, their minds ceasing thought. When they had returned to their senses, they no longer dared to stay any longer. What Jianshan? What winged tiger god? Thoughts such as those were all cast aside by them. They left as if they were fleeing for their lives. The sea goddess was a supreme champion that had surpassed Saint Emperor. In the current age, who could be her enemy? Not long afterward, Ling Yuanzi united with the people who had rushed over from the Yuan sect. He described everything that had happened in detail to the other great elders. "What? The sea goddess is not dead?" Hearing Ling Yuanzi's report, the great elders all paled in fright. They were shocked. This piece of news was just like a crack of thunder to them. It was unbelievable. "Let's head back immediately and quickly call on the other protector clans and mercenary city to discuss this matter." The people from the sect quickly left the ocean along with Bai Yifei. Currently, the saint artifact hung in the air as it radiated with a faint golden light in a dark cave. When it had escaped from Ling Yuanzi, the saint artifact had descended into the depths of the ocean, before finally passing through a powerful barrier and entering another world. Afterward, it hid in a cave. Although the world was located under the sea, it was enveloped by a very powerful barrier that kept all the seawater out. It created an independent space for the world under the sea. Within the saint artifact, Jianshan and newbies accepted the origin energy of radiant saint force from the artifact's spirit and were recovering. The two of them were enveloped by a milky white light as their injuries healed quickly. This time, the attacks they had received were from Saint Kings. The injuries were extremely heavy, and it took newbies an entire day to recover. As for Jianshan, his body still contained some residual energy from the Saint Tier battle skill, as he was injured by it. His condition was even worse, and he struggled to heal himself. That Saint Tier battle skill really is powerful. If you want to completely heal the wounds left behind by it, you need several strands of origin energy. Just one will not be enough. The artifact's spirit stood before Jianshan, pouring several strands of origin energy consecutively into his body. It slowly healed the wounds left behind by the Saint Tier battle skill. The origin energy controlled by the artifact spirit was much more powerful than Jianshan's origin energy. With him helping out, the effects would be greater. After consuming several strands, Jianshan finally recovered completely. However, his loss of 500 years of life from casting the forbidden radiant arte could not be recovered no matter what he tried. As a result, Jianshan recovered from his injuries, but he clearly still felt weak. Artifact spirit, how is the situation outside? As soon as he recovered, Jianshan asked the artifact spirit immediately. Master, we're completely safe now. "We've reached the sea race," said the artifact spirit. With that, Jianshan finally relaxed slightly. He gave out a soft sigh. What a pity. Even with 500 years of my life as the price, the god's descent was unable to kill the two of them. Jianshan, you should know where to draw the line. They were both fifth heavenly layer Saint Kings, and were heavily injured by you. Additionally, they've received wounds to their origin souls where it's extremely difficult to recover from. They've paid an extremely heavy price, and in the end, you even forced that old man to cast his Saint-tier battle skill, said Newbies. If it weren't for the battle skill destroying my god's descent, I had the confidence of killing the two of them. If I used a millennia of my life as the price, I'm confident I could have forcefully taken on his Saint-tier battle skill, and then killed them afterward, said Jianshan expressionlessly. He felt rather regretful. He was so close to killing two great Saint Kings this time. 1,000 years of life. Newbies immediately leaped up and stared at Jianshan wide-eyed. Kiddo Jianshan, do you think your life is too long? 500 years is already terrifying enough, and yet you still want to pay 1,000 years of your life to kill two Saint Kings. Why would you even do such an unworthwhile thing? With your talent, you'll probably reach Saint Emperor in another 1,000 years. At that time, you'll have the power to kill your way through the protector clans. Why must you be so wrapped up in the moment? Jianshan stood up and said, Newbies, let's not talk about this for now. I plan on going into seclusion for some time after this. Alright, I'll go into seclusion too. When I absorb all the hidden essence left in that old snake, I'll be able to reach Saint King successfully, said Newbies. At that very moment, the artifact spirit's expression changed slightly. He said, the senses of the sea race is just too powerful. Master, a few people have already discovered our existence, and are currently hurrying over. With that, Jianshan's face darkened slightly. Looks like it's not the time to go into seclusion right now. Jianshan, let's go out first. The secret of the Saint artifact cannot become widespread. We definitely can't let the people of the sea race discover its existence. Once any news of it is leaked, it'll cause quite some trouble, said Newbies. Afterwards, Newbies and Jianshan appeared outside with a flash of white light in the gloomy cave. Jianshan stored the artifact away before they concealed their presences and walked outside. Arriving outside the cave, Jianshan unconsciously looked upward. The sky was a deep blue, consisting of seawater that was forcefully blocked by the barrier. The barrier shone with a gentle blue light that illuminated the entire world. The territory of the sea race was dyed blue by the light from the barrier. Where the sea race thrived, the temperature was rather low. The outside sun could not be seen at all, while some energy of the 6 attributes were lacking. The water attribute was extremely powerful, several times denser than on the Tianyuan continent, while the other attributes were much weaker. The fire attribute was not present at all. Is this the world of the sea race? Murmured Jianshan as he gazed at the unfamiliar world. Although Newbies knew that the sea race existed from his inherited memories, it was the first time he had come here. Naturally, he was extremely curious too, constantly moving his head to look around. Far away, over 10 figures appeared suddenly. They radiated with a water blue light as they sped toward Jianshan and Newbies in the air with the assistance of water-attributed energy. Chapter 859, World of the Sea. A few Class 6 magical beasts have come. Newbies focused his attention on the dozen or so figures who flew over from the distance. They're not magical beasts but humanoid organisms who have evolved from sea life, corrected Jianshan. He could tell with a single glance that they were not humans or magical beasts. There's not much information regarding the sea race in my inherited memories. However, these members of the sea race really are intriguing. They're basically the same as us magical beasts, but they don't need to reach Saint Ruler to gain a human form. They're much better than us magical beasts, sighed Newbies. The people arrived before the two of them very quickly. They stopped 20 meters away, while their expressions were filled with caution. There were 13 people in total, 12 young men and 1 woman. The young men were all of average appearance, while the woman was slightly dashing. She exuded a refined aura of nobility, and was clearly the daughter of some wealthy clan. Perhaps it was because of the special factors in the environment of the sea that they lived in, but their skin were not white. Instead, their skin was green, a very distinct feature that differentiated them from the humans who dwelled on the Tianyuan continent. As Jian Chun and newbies studied them, they looked back and examined them in return. However, they shifted their gazes from Jian Chun very quickly. Their eyes landed on the gold-clothed newbies who had long golden hair. Most of those who lived under the sea had blue hair. Although a minority had hair of other colors, people with golden hair had never appeared. Newbies clearly stood out with his appearance among the people of the sea race. "Esteemed warriors, may I ask of your purpose here?" the rather good-looking lady asked curiously, while her eyes constantly studied Jian Chun and newbies. "The two of us are resting here. Is there anything you require?" Jian Chun asked indifferently. "Miss, don't pay any attention to them. We're not far from Jas City now. For the two of them to rest in the wilderness, they clearly haven't brought enough crystal coins to pay the fee to enter the city, or they don't have enough crystal coins to live in there. With Mrs. Great status, there's no need to talk to these lowly people. It'll only be depreciating Mrs. status," said a young man with a slightly good-looking appearance from behind. His gaze toward Jian Chun and newbies was filled with disdain. He was unable to feel their strength at all, so he viewed them as ordinary people. "Shut up, there's no need to be so rude," the lady reprimanded the young man with a slight frown. Afterward, she looked toward the two of them and asked, "Esteemed warriors, may I ask how many stars do you possess as Sea Soul warriors?" Jian Chun and newbies looked at each other. They had no idea as to how to answer this question. This was their first time coming to where the sea race resided, so they were still extremely unfamiliar with the sea race. They had no idea what a Sea Soul warrior was, how many stars they were, or what they represented. If they answered it incorrectly, it would draw suspicion from the people. Seeing how the two of them were unable to answer this question, the young man from behind could not help but speak out. "Haven't you become Sea Soul warriors yet?" "No, we indeed have not become Sea Soul warriors," replied Jian Chun. With that, all the young men behind the lady revealed expressions of contempt. Their gazes toward the two of them were filled with unconcealed disdain. Skepticism appeared on the lady's face, clearly not believing what Jian Chun had said. She was talented and practiced the innate spirit-opening technique of the 8 great sea race techniques. Her sensory abilities exceeded those on the same level, and were able to spy on almost everything. Before, as she had passed this region, she had clearly felt the ripples of a powerful but extremely obscure energy. As a result, she rushed over and discovered Jian Chun and newbies. However, her innate spirit-opening technique was unable to see through Jian Chun and newbies. She could feel that the two people before her were not as simple as they seemed at all. The lady hesitated slightly before asking, "Esteemed warriors, the Jas City is not far from here. Also, the grand auction held once every 100 years is about to start soon too. Why don't the two warriors enter the city with me?" "All right, we'll go in with the young lady." Jian Chun agreed readily. "Jian Chun, why do you want to enter the city with them now?" Newbies sent a mental message, as he was extremely perplexed. Members of the sea race are relatively special. Their sensory abilities completely exceed my expectations, and they actually discovered the existence of the Saint artifact. The artifact is unable to conceal its presence entirely, so we can't take it out often. As a result, we can only cultivate outside, which is why we need to have a detailed understanding regarding the sea race. Following them undoubtedly would be a fast and convenient way to this knowledge. Yeah, that seems reasonable. I do have some information recorded in my inherited memories regarding the sea race, but I have no idea how long ago this is from. The sea race must have experienced some great changes too, like these Sea Soul warriors. I have no clue what they are. Afterward, the two of them followed the woman toward Jas City. They concealed their strength as they enveloped themselves with a layer of water-attributed energy and flew slowly. To the two of them, who were both saint rulers, this was as easy as cake. As they displayed their ability of flight, it immediately caused a great change in the gazes of the other people. Along the way, Jian Chun and newbies constantly asked vague questions regarding the situation of the sea race. They learned a lot of useful information from the lady, gaining a deeper and deeper understanding. Other than the fact that the sea race was divided into 3 factions that they already knew, it was further split up into the inner and outer oceans. The inner ocean was the independent world where the 2 of them currently resided, separated by a barrier. It was the holy land of the sea race where only highly evolved, humanoid sea race members had the right to enter. The members of the sea race, who had yet to gain a humanoid form, could only live in the outer ocean. The outer ocean was the world outside the barrier. Not only was the environment horrible, there was a scarce supply of water-attributed energy of the world, and it was filled with sea water. Of course, there were a few species of the sea race who could not take humanoid forms due to innate limitations. As a result, they only needed to reach the 14th star as sea soul warriors to gain the right to enter. Sea soul warriors were the cultivators of the sea race. Their strengths were divided into a total of 18 stars. According to how magical beasts were measured, one class was equivalent to 2 stars. First star and second star sea soul warriors were equivalent to human saints and class 1 magical beasts, while third star and fourth star sea soul warriors were equivalent to human great saints and class 2 magical beasts. Continuing with this pattern, 11th star and 12th star sea soul warriors were equivalent to class 6 magical beasts. 13th star and 14th star sea soul warriors were equivalent to class 7 magical beasts. 15th star and 16th star sea soul warriors were equivalent to class 8 magical beasts, and 17th star and 18th star sea soul warriors were equivalent to class 9 magical beasts. In the territory of the sea race, crystal coins would form naturally from the water-attributed energy. Not only were they the currency used by the sea race, they were also a crucial object for cultivation. The coins were as important as monster cores on the Tianyuan continent, but the only difference was that when they absorbed these coins for cultivation, there would not be any after effects. Other than the 3 halls that divided the world, there were many other organizations of various sizes, existing in the forms of clans or tribes. Other than all this, Jianshan also learned something extremely important. There would often be humans or magical beasts who moved about among the sea race too. They were virtually all foreign cultivators, who lived quite close to the region of sea. They would bring in objects from outside to trade with the sea race to obtain what they needed. Although the majority of the sea race did not antagonize foreign humans or magical beasts, there were exceptions. Some members of the sea race were extremely xenophobic, so whenever they saw outsiders, there would often be conflict or deeds of murder and robbery. Even powerful human saint rulers and class 7 magical beasts were not exceptions to this fact. As a result, if outsiders wanted to move about among the sea race safely, they needed the support of a powerful organization. Jianshan also gained some understanding of the lady's identity. She was the daughter of a clan patriarch several tens of thousand kilometers away, and was called Kaya. She had cultivated for over 200 years, and this was the first time she had led a dozen or so 12th-star sea soul warriors to participate in the auction of Jas City, held once every 100 years. As Jianshan traveled towards the city, the high-ranking members of the 10 protector clans in Mercenary City all gathered in a floating hall in Mercenary City. Everyone, this is the situation. The sea goddess is not dead, and Jianshan fled into the territory of the sea race with the winged tiger god. Let's talk about just what we should do. A great elder narrated the information he had learned from Ling Yuanzi in detail. Within the floating hall, all the other people were extremely stern, with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City being the only exception. The sea goddess was an influential existence from the ancient times. She was someone that matched up to the greatest human expert Mo Tianyan, the ancient winged tiger god, and the war god of the 100 races, Ergens. She was one of the 4 supreme champions that surpassed Saint Emperor. Now that so many years had passed, the war god Ergens had fallen. The ancient winged tiger god and Mo Tianyan had both disappeared. It was extremely likely that they have passed away from old age. They were no longer with them, yet the sea goddess still existed. This piece of news caused an extremely great shock to the 10 protector clans, and made all of their expressions become ugly. Yuan Qingzi, is this true? Are you sure the sea goddess is not dead? And that it's not some other expert posing to scare us? Asked a representative from a protector clan. His tone was stern. I'm absolutely certain about this. Other than me, there's also Bai Yifei who witnessed this. Ling Yuanzi growled. He had yet to recover fully from his injuries, so his face was sheet white and ghastly. Ling Yuanzi, are your injuries from the sea goddess? I feel that your origin soul is extremely weak. It has suffered extremely great damage, said a ruddy old man. Ling Yuanzi shook his head. As soon as he thought about this, he felt a wave of shame and resentment. As an impressive fifth heavenly layer Saint King, he had actually fallen to such a state all from a junior, who was far weaker than he was. This was a great embarrassment. It was Jianshen. I never thought he'd reached class 7 as a radiant saint master. He paid 500 years of his life as a price to cast the forbidden radiant arte, injuring me heavily, said Ling Yuanzi with gritted teeth. Hatred toward Jianshen churned within him. With that, everyone present was surprised. Changyang Qing Yun from the Changyang clan and the Grand Elder of Mercenary City both became mixed in emotions. They wanted to help Jianshen very much, but they lacked the power to do so. This was also connected to the winged tiger god. If the problem regarding who the winged tiger god belonged to was not resolved, they could not help Jianshen at all, as this would only intensify the disagreement between the protector clans. It's about time I told everyone this. Yuan Qingzi is right. The sea goddess has indeed not passed away and still remains alive, said Tianjian. His voice was flat and reserved. Tianjian, how are you so certain that the sea goddess is not dead? Tianjian, since you knew the sea goddess was still alive, why didn't you tell us earlier? Two representatives from different clans asked at the same time. Tianjian replied slowly. Many years ago, I fused my origin soul with the hall and borrowed its power to observe the world. I sensed a terrifyingly powerful energy from the sea race, and confirmed that it was the sea goddess. As for why I didn't tell you all, do you believe this is good news? Knowing would actually make you all worse off, making you all worry. Chapter 860. Fragment of the Octaterra map. Tianjian replied slowly. Many years ago, I fused my origin soul with the hall and borrowed its power to observe the world. I sensed a terrifyingly powerful energy from the sea race, and confirmed that it was the sea goddess. As for why I didn't tell you all, do you believe this is good news? Knowing would actually make you all worse off, making you all worry. Everyone present understood. The news about the sea goddess caused them to experience an extremely great pressure. If it was possible, they would rather not hear about it. Now that Jianshen's taken the winged tiger god into the territory of the sea race with him, what do you all think we should do? A member of the 10 protector clans said with a deep voice. Many people present became extremely grim. With the Tianyuan continent's current strength, the realm of the sea race was a forbidden zone without any doubt. Even if they united all the power on the entire continent, they would not be able to fend off one of the 4 supreme champions that had surpassed Saint Emperor from the ancient times. Even if they worked with the beast god continent, they would probably still be unable to oppose the sea race. The protector clans were ancient clans that had survived from the ancient times. There were many records in the clans, so they knew about the strength and terror of those who had surpassed Saint Emperor extremely well. I find this to be rather fishy. Since the sea goddess is still alive, why have we not heard any news about her even after so much time? It has even made everyone believe that she already had passed away from old age. Analyzed an old man. With that, many people first stared blankly, before their eyes began to twinkle in thought. A middle-aged man said, I think that's reasonable. Since the sea goddess is still alive, why has she kept such a low profile? That doesn't make sense. Is she perhaps hiding for something? Or has she always been asleep, and has only just woken up? A Saint King has a lifespan of 6,000 years, while a Saint Emperor has 10,000. With the sea goddess's strength that has surpassed Saint Emperor, her lifespan will definitely be even longer, but it's already been so much time since the ancient times. No matter how long her life is, she shouldn't be still alive. Perhaps it's just a strand of the sea goddess's soul that she left behind? If it's just a strand of her soul, There's nothing to fear. The people from the 10 protector clans all discussed their views and ideas. The sea goddess saved Jianchen at the most crucial moment. I think she already knows the existence of the winged tiger god too, and will definitely take it. The beast god continent needs it even more urgently than us. So there's bound to be conflict between the sea race and the magical beasts. Why don't we just watch on from a distance if this is the case, and let both of them sustain great losses? You never know, we might even be able to fish up some spoils from it. You're right. And we can use the beast god continent to probe the situation of the sea goddess as well. Currently, a voice filled with rage roared out in the depths of some mountains abundant in the energy of the world. Heavenly enchantress, you bitch. So much for me being so infatuated with you, and yet you treat me like this. You actually stopped me from killing Jianchen. You're a wretched couple I say. I by Jian will definitely make the two of you regret it. Jianchen, you bastard, you son of a bitch. You took my love. I will definitely make you suffer so much that you wish you were dead. So what if you've run off to the sea race? I won't let any of your friends or family off the hook. I will make the flame mercenaries into a bloodbath. Cough cough by Jian, calm down. There's a great elder from the Changyang clan guarding Jianchen's family. You must not act recklessly, and remember to never clash with them openly. We still can't offend the protector clans. Bai Yifei's weakened voice sounded from within the cave. Dad, I know what I should do, said Bai Jian with bloodshot eyes and ragged breath. The rage within him had already reached the utmost limit. Changyang Zuyian stared blankly out the window in a building toward the main door of the Changyang clan in Lore City, her face filled with sorrow. Kong, or just where are you? Changyang Zuyian said miserably. In the recent years, she had not taken a single step out of Lore City, awaiting for her son's return quietly. Even she herself no longer had any idea how many times she had said things along those lines. Sigh, there goes another few years. Kong's lifespan is getting shorter too. It's a pity that the world's so big. We can't find him at all. Changyang Zuyinshan also sighed sorrowfully. He felt extremely miserable. The flame mercenaries had also experienced an extremely great change in these 4 years. The original city walls had already been demolished, and the construction of a city made out of tungsten alloy had begun too. Under the hard words of hundreds of thousands of workers, blocks of meter-wide tungsten alloy cubes were stacked up, already forming a city wall of over 30 meters in height. After 4 years, the reconstruction of Flame City had reached a third of the way there. Meanwhile, the act of building the city by the Flame Mercenaries was so great that it shook up a portion of the continent and raised the attention of various powerful organizations. Over these years, Yu Yu and Bai Lian both began to hand down matters gradually to their subordinates, devoting more time to cultivation. Their constitution had been improved by the heavenly resources left behind by Jianchen. They cultivated much faster than ordinary people, and with the personal guidance from 2 saint rulers, Bai Hai and Jetta Tai, they had already become great saint masters. Mingdong, Tai Ta Fatty, Yu Yifeng Dugafeng, and others spent the entire time in seclusion. They never appeared, so no one knew just how powerful they had grown to either. In the highest room of a tower at the Huanggu clan, the patriarch stood courteously before a large metal door. Reporting to Ancestor, I've already inquired about it. Your newly accepted disciple, Huang Wuan, has reached the 3rd cycle as an Earth Saint Master. She's currently working hard on her cultivation, under the personal guidance of the ancestor from the Huang family, Huang Tianba. 3rd cycle Earth Saint Master. This speed is a little slow. If this continues, it'll at least take a dozen or so years before she reaches Heaven Saint Master. It seems it's time for me to bring that girl back. Only when she is by my side will her cultivation speed increase, and only then will she reach Heaven Saint Master in the shortest amount of time possible. An ancient, powerful voice boomed from inside the metal door. It was the ancestor of the Huanggu clan. Jazz City was deep under the sea in the sea race's territory, and was a very well-known city, in a radius of several tens of thousands of kilometers. It took up an extremely large area, and had a great population. It was an extremely bustling city. The travelers beside newbies and Jian Chun gradually increased, as they reached a distance of 10 kilometers from the city with Kaya. Almost all of them were members of the sea race, with long blue hair and blue skin. However, other than this, they seemed just like the humans on the Tianyuan continent. Jas City is a king-level city. Only sea soul warriors beyond the 13th star can fly in it. If the two warriors have reached the 13th star, you can enter directly by air, and there won't be a need to pay a fee to enter the city. Kaya stared at the two of them, as her eyes glimmered with interest. Jianchen stared into the distance. Just as she had said, he discovered that every person who entered the city needed to pay a varying number of crystal coins to the soldiers. Jianchen pulled out a 100-year-old heavenly resource from his space ring and said, "Miss Kaya, we've used up all the crystal coins on us. Is it possible to use this heavenly resource to exchange for some crystal coins with Miss?" Kaya smiled brightly and pulled out a small, bulging bag of money from her space ring. "Warriors, here are 100 grand quality crystal coins. Just treat it as a gift from me. Please keep the heavenly resource, warriors." After some silent thought, Jianchen accepted the bag full of coins from Kaya. "Since it's like this, then treat it as if the two of us owing Miss Kaya a favor. We'll definitely repay it in the future when we get the chance." Jianchen and newbies separated with Kaya outside the city. They directly paid the fee with the 100 grand quality crystal coins and disappeared into the crowds. "Miss, do you perhaps know these two warriors? Why did you give 100 grand quality crystal coins to them so magnanimously? That's not a small amount," asked a guard in confusion after Jianchen and newbies left. Kaya watched as the two of them disappeared into the crowds. "I practice the innate spirit opening technique, so I can look into certain things much deeper than other people. I believe in my instinct. The two of them are not simple. Forming a good tie with them right now might just bring great benefits to our tribe in the future. But, no buts, let's go into the city." Inside Jas City, Jianchen and newbies strolled through its bustling streets. In order to not draw attention, newbies had already changed his golden hair and clothes to blue on purpose, while Jianchen remained the same. It was approaching the great auction that Jas City held once every 100 years, so conversations about it could be heard everywhere on the streets. Apparently, there'll be a lot of treasures that'll appear in the auction this time. It's drawn in people from many large tribes, so it'll definitely be another fierce battle between them when the time comes. I heard that there'll be 3D level saint techniques in the auction this time. I wonder if that's true or not. Saint techniques were equivalent to the battle skills from the Tianyuan continent, and were just another name for them. The saint techniques were divided into 4 levels by the sea race: the Tian level, D level, Xian level, and Huang level respectively. The Tian level was the most powerful, equivalent to saint tier battle skills on the Tianyuan continent, while the Huang level was the lowest, equal to human tier battle skills. There's not just D-level saint techniques. I heard that there's also going to be a Tian-level saint technique for auction too, but it doesn't seem to be complete. Only 30% seems to be there. There's also liquid mercury in this auction. It's a substance from the Sea of Despair, and is created by the world. It's extremely rare, and is sacred to the sea race. With just a mouthful of it, someone with ordinary talent can gain talent that is even rarely seen in 1,000 years. I heard there's also going to be a Class 8 Radiant Spirit Pill for auction. It's from the distant Tianyuan continent, and is an extremely valuable medicine for healing. It's worth cities. It's rumored that a fragment of the Octaterra map is for auction. It was left behind by the Octaterra Emperor 10,000 years ago, who had reached the 17th star. It's the key to opening the Octaterra Divine Hall. Inside the hall is the Octaterra Emperor's legacy, and all of his belongings. There are 8 fragments to the Octaterra map. It's rumored that 7 fragments have already appeared, now all in the hands of the 7 great tribes. Looks like the one this time is the final fragment. Jian Chun and newbies strolled down the streets, observing the local customs and traditions of the sea race, as they listened to the people in the surroundings talk. This Octo-something emperor was actually a 17th star expert. According to how the strength of the sea race is divided, He should be a saint emperor. That's a dwelling left behind by a saint emperor. Interesting, muttered Newbies as he stroked his chin. An expression of great interest appeared in his eyes. Just as Jianchen wanted to tell Newbies to keep a lower profile, Ziying's voice sounded in his head. Master, I found another material to craft the azulate swords. It's 10 kilometers ahead. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.